However, the black-clad figure's strength clearly exceeded the expectations of the two. His speed was ridiculously fast. Before the old monk with the spear could reach him, his fist had already slammed into the face of the Vajra Master. "Brother, this Vajra Master's skin membrane." Xia Hong, who originally wanted to remind him, stopped before finishing his sentence, the fear in his eyes rising another level. When the fist struck his face, the Vajra Master hurriedly raised both hands to block. Just as before, his body shone with golden light, indeed catching the black-clad figure's fist. Yet the opponent's strength clearly surpassed his by far. His hands were directly pushed into his own face by the punch, his nose instantly broken, and his entire face caved in by about 1 or 2 centimeters. Gulp! Even though the golden light master's expression remained calm, and he appeared unscathed, just seeing his face cave and made Xia Hong involuntarily turn to look at the black-clad figure, swallowing hard. He had fought the Vajra Master twice, fully aware of the other's physical toughness. A punch that could crush his face like this could only mean one thing. The black-clad figure's strength not only surpassed his, but also far surpassed that of the Vajra Master. 10 units, this person's strength is at least over 10 units, possibly exceeding Shangyuan Yang, or even Yang Zhun, looking at his bone appearance battle body, how many feet he has. At this moment, Xia Hong was staring at the black-clad figure, his pupils trembling. He knew very well what it meant for someone to be at a Xianyang level stronger than Shangyuan Yang, or even Yang Zhun. Right now, he just wanted to see the black-clad figure's bone appearance battle body, to determine the true extent of his strength. Unfortunately, his plan was clearly destined to fail. As the black-clad figure struck the Vajra Master, he swiftly drew the black soft sword from his left eye, then turned around to slash out a black sword edge hundreds of meters long, sweeping away the approaching old monk with the spear. Great Awakening Yan Long Master, am I right? The old monk with the spear, recognized for his identity, immediately showed a hint of surprise on his face but said nothing. He merely followed the Vajra Master, face sullen, to once again press forward towards the black-clad figure. Holding the soft sword, the black-clad figure saw the two charging at him, his gaze turning cold. He flung the soft sword sharply, first blocking the faster Yan Long Master behind him, then with a swift kick sent him, spear and all, flying several dozen meters. Without any hesitation, he gathered strength with his left fist and struck forward fiercely. Bam! The Vajra Master's punch was blocked once again. But this time, the result was different. When the black-clad figure kicked Yan Long Master away, he had used a lot of strength. Hastily gathering power with his left fist, it wasn't as strong as before, being pushed back repeatedly by the Vajra Master. Swishing. However, the black-clad figure only retreated 2 or 3 meters before quickly suppressing his momentum. His body suddenly turned, his right hand leveraging the strength of his waist and abdomen, slashing out a black sword, edge directly flying towards the Vajra Master's chest. What a pity! At this moment, the Vajra Master's body exploded with golden light. Even if the sword cut through, it was the chest, so at most, he would end up like he did with his face being caved in, not suffering a fatal injury, which made Xia Hong sigh inwardly with regret. As if the black-clad figure's strength was too great, the Vajra Master faced this sword but didn't dare to take it head-on. His pupils slightly contracted, he abandoned the fist strike, then quickly twisted his body, using his flank to block. Crunchy. The black-clad figure's strength was indeed formidable. As the black sword edge swept past, the sound of cracking was clearly heard from the bones in the Vajra Master's right arm, and he was directly swept away by the sword edge for over 100 meters. What are you still doing standing there? These two old guys together, I can't fight them. If you don't escape now, there won't be another chance. Hearing the black-clad figure's voice, Xia Hong's face changed dramatically. Especially noticing the residual glances of the two masters directed at him, he gritted his teeth and cupped his fists. Thank you, my friend, for saving my life. Xia Hong will surely repay this kindness one day. After saying that, he immediately flew swiftly towards the southeast, not daring to linger any longer. That person's appearance at most 60 or 70 years old, maybe even younger, yet such powerful strength. His attire isn't in the style of the 9 towns. Is he from elsewhere, or is someone in the other 8 towns secretly breaking through and deliberately pretending? No, not from the other 8 towns. The others in the 8 towns wouldn't go to such lengths to save me. It must be from the outer realm. An external force has set its eyes on the 9 towns. That's troublesome. Zai Zhang's brow furrowed, his heart obviously unsettled. He sped southeast for over 100 kilometers, and it was only when he saw a giant black city wall, spanning 15 kilometers from north to south, that his expression finally relaxed. The gates of the towns of the 9 towns all faced east towards the Mo mountain range, and Jiangxia City was no exception. Thus, the western city wall he saw now was effectively the back entrance to Jiangxia City. Even though it was the back entrance, as soon as he approached, someone immediately came up to meet him. Senior brother. The person arriving clearly held a significant status, wearing a fine white robe with meticulously tied white hair at the back of his head, his face lined with creases, looking much older than him, yet calling out senior brother. Zinfan, we lost Hongyuan. Zai Zhang was the only disciple of Jiangxia Lord Jiang Yinglong, and logically had no junior brothers. The only person in Jiangxia town who could call him senior brother was Jiang Yinglong's eldest son, the town chief Jiang Zinfan, standing in front of him now. Lost it, so what? Senior brother, go back and heal your wounds first. Chapter 1039. Chapter 369. Both suffer crushing defeat, Great Awakening Yan Long Master, 2 dead, 3 injured, an unexpected encounter /5. Seeing Zai Zhang covered in wounds, Jiang Zinfan clearly had a premonition about the battle at Hongyuan. So when he heard that Hongyuan had fallen, he showed no surprise and instead signaled Zai Zhang to enter the city first. Feeling that Jiang Zinfan's response was too indifferent, Zai Zhang was obviously a bit angry and said in a low voice, "With Hongyuan lost, the barrier between Jiangxia and Daju Temple is completely gone. If Master and the others from the 7 towns return empty-handed, Jiangxia will soon face even harsher revenge from Daju Temple. You're the town chief, have you thought about what to do next?" Seeing the anger on Zai Zhang's face, Jiang Zinfan understood that he was still resenting his father, Jiang Yinglong, for not defending Hongyuan with him. "Senior brother, don't be angry. Maybe there will be good news from father's side soon. To strike at the heart, as the town chief of the 7 towns previously said, without finding the deceitful monster behind Daju Temple, we can't annihilate it completely. Holding Hongyuan is temporary, as long as the people of the 8 towns." Although Jiang Zinfan is the town chief, he only has the cold resistance level cultivation. He knows well that Jiangxia town relies on his father and senior brother to stand firm, so on a daily basis, his main role as town chief is to mediate between the two. It's not that Jiang Yinglong and Zai Zhang, the pair of master and disciple, don't have a good relationship. On the contrary, they have a very good relationship. But when it comes to major decisions for the town, differences in ideology can sometimes arise, which is quite normal. Jiang Zinfan is obviously experienced in handling these matters. After he finished speaking, the anger on Zai Zhang's face gradually faded away, and he sighed lightly. "We can only hope that Master gains something from this. Originally, we planned to expand westward from the north bank of the Heng River, but now that path is blocked by Daju Temple, and further plans are uncertain. Whatever one fears will come." Before Zai Zhang could finish his words, he detected something, quickly turned his head to look into the western sky, and his expression changed abruptly. In the western sky, a middle-aged man holding a big saber suddenly plummeted from midair. The man's clothes were tattered, and blood was oozing from the 7 orifices of his eyes, ears, nose, and mouth, looking extremely battered. When he landed, he spat out a mouthful of fresh blood and couldn't even stand. "Master, father." Zai Zhang and Jiang Zinfan were shocked to see the person was their leader, Jiang Yinglong. Their faces were filled with horror as they rushed forward to support him. Jiang Yinglong looked exceptionally panicked. His mind seemed somewhat disoriented. After taking deep breaths for over a dozen breaths, he spoke urgently to Zai Zhang. "Quickly mobilize the army to Peak Mountain Camp. The power of Daju Temple is unfathomable. After taking Hongyuan, they will inevitably continue to expand. We must prepare quickly." "I'll take care of it immediately, Master. What happened at Daju Temple?" "Peak Mountain Camp is the place where I almost got killed just now, more than 20 kilometers east of Hongyuan village. The camp was mainly set up to defend against Chui Mountain Town, and now Jiang Yinglong intends to station the army there against Daju Temple." After Zai Zhang responded, he couldn't help but ask what happened at Daju Temple. Jiang Yinglong couldn't calm his emotions after recalling his encounter at Daju Temple. His pupils were filled with fear as he said, "Zhu Yuan, Hai Ming, Wu Sheng, each of the 3 great masters in the Great Awakening Hall is more terrifying than the other. There are more than 700 official bhikkhus as well. Of the 8 of us who went, except for the 3 from the northern 3 towns led by Yang Jun, 2 died and 3 were injured among the rest. Bang! Xia Zhang's heart was instantly thrown into turmoil by these words. Jiang Xinfan's pupils shrank abruptly, and his expression went blank. 8 Xianyang level experts went, 2 died and 3 were injured. I'll immediately deploy the defensive army to gather at Peak Mountain Camp. Junior brother, quickly send messages to the other 7 towns. No, don't forget Mayan. Send messages to the town chiefs of the 8 towns, urging them to come to Peak Mountain Camp to discuss tactics promptly. Understood, senior brother. After Jiang Xinfan responded, his face suddenly looked grim and continued to speak to Xia Zhang. 8 Xianyang levels, 2 dead and 3 injured. The 8 towns must be like birds startled by the mere twang of a bow. Will they agree? If they don't agree, we still have our strategies. Let's send the messages first. Jiang Xinfan said nothing more, simply nodded and headed towards the town. Master, who were the 2 Xianyang levels that died? Yang's Cao Qianhai and Dragon Valley's Long Mingfeng. Thank heavens there were only 3 great masters at Daju Temple tonight. If there was even one more, I might not have made it out. Hearing his master mention that there were only 3 great masters at Daju Temple, Xia Zhang nodded gently, feeling a shiver of fear rising inside him. If that black-clad man hadn't appeared tonight, he would certainly be dead. Xia Zhang initially wanted to mention being saved tonight, but when he saw Jiang Yinglong's frightening demeanor, he swallowed his words and instead asked, Cao Qianyang and Long Minjuan didn't come in person. Cao Qianhai is the Yonk town chief, and Long Mingfeng is the Dragon Valley army chief. It's surprising that neither town sent their lord. Not only did they not come, but so did the lords of Chui Mountain and Bashing. Chui Mountain sent Duan Hong, and Bashing sent Xiang Fan Yun. These fools are still scheming against each other when death is at their doorstep. If the 8 town lords had all come, we wouldn't have been defeated by those 3 great masters this badly. Yang Yinglong's face was filled with rage, clearly dissatisfied with the absence of the 4 town lords. Yonk and Dragon Valley lost a Xianyang level each and surely won't rest until they have revenge. Oh right, master, how are Duan Hong and Xiang Fan Yun's injuries? Chapter 1040, Chapter 369, Mutual Defeat, Great Awakening Yan Long Master, 2 dead 3 injured, Unexpected Encounter /6. Xia Qin had already supported Jiang Yinglong. Upon detecting the injuries within Jiang Yinglong's body, his expression immediately grew much more solemn, and he promptly inquired about the condition of the other 2 severely injured individuals. The injuries of those 2 are much heavier than mine. I estimate it'll take me 2 or 3 years at least to recover. As Jiang Yinglong spoke, his expression suddenly turned grim, his pace slowed, and he turned to look at his disciple Xia Zhang, continuing in a deep voice. Your left arm injury hasn't healed yet. This new injury on your body, it was added at Hongyuan, right? Xia Zhang nodded, remaining silent. Jiangxia has only 2 Xianyang level experts, and now they're both severely injured. This is not a good thing. Jiang Yinglong furrowed his brows, pondered for a while, and then spoke gravely. Deploy the army to the Peak Mountain Camp as a gesture for the Daju Temple to see. Things are different now. If the 7 towns send people over to fool us, we won't go to war with the Daju Temple. Yonk, Dragon Valley, Chui Mountain, Bashing, and our Jiangxia, the central and south 5 towns are all severely weakened. This timing is very delicate. The primary task is to conserve strength. As for the surroundings, it's better not to mention it for the time being. Those 3 in the north might all have some bad intentions now. Be cautious during this period. Upon hearing Jiang Yinglong's words, Xia Zhang's expression changed repeatedly before he finally nodded heavily, a cold gleam appearing in his eyes as he said, I understand, master. 10 kilometers east of Hongyuan, a team composed of 32 armored soldiers was galloping eastward through the snow forest. It was already getting light, and judging by the unpanicked manner they were traveling, it was evident they all had cold resistance level cultivation. That person on the road just now, he wasn't deceiving us, right? We head to the Peak Mountain Camp for assembly. Peak Mountain is still a dozen kilometers away. Several people have said the same thing, so it should be true. The earth-digging realm is too late to rush there now. They are probably all looking for places to hide, but those of cold resistance level can still make it there. 1,800,000 troops just perished like that, tut-tut. With Hongyuan lost, Jiangxia will have even more trouble coming up next. invulnerable to blades and spears. That master's divine power is too uncanny. Luckily we ran fast, otherwise we would be dead. The last one to show up was the Jiangxia army chief Xia Hong. Right. He wasn't a match for the Vajra master at all. Don't know if he managed to escape in the end. I'd reckon the odds of survival are slim. Hearing Zhu Shun's last question, a hint of curiosity also appeared on the face of the leading Lu Yang, as he too wanted to know if that Xia Hong was dead or not. After all, he was a Xianyang level of the 9 towns. If his death could be confirmed, it would be considered a big piece of news. He ran away, I saved him. A voice suddenly came from above the crowd, and Lu Yang's expression froze in shock. His face immediately showed a hint of ecstasy as he looked up at the black figure in the sky and bowed directly, saying, "East Ridge Guardian Lu Yang pays respect to the Lord." Pays respect to the Lord. Wang Tao, Zhu Shun, and the others looked up at the figure in the sky, and their reactions were similar to Lu Yang, all of them bowing in unison to the visitor. Xia Hong gently floated down in front of Lu Yang, holding out his hand with a smile. "What a coincidence to run into you here. No need for formalities, all of you rise." Lu Yang and the others looked up together, and immediately recognized the black soft sword in Xia Hong's hand as Xia Hong's weapon, which left them puzzled. Seeing the expressions of the crowd, Xia Hong knew what they were thinking and smiled as he spoke. "Don't view every camp outside of Great Xia as an enemy. Jiangxia is of great use to us, you will understand in the future." Wang Tao and Lu Yang were the first among the group to respond. A hint of clarity rose in their eyes, obviously understanding Xia Hong's meaning. Lu Yang suddenly thought of something and hurriedly cupped his hands toward Xia Hong, saying, "By the way, Lord, we had just barely escaped from Hongyuan when we saw several silhouettes flying out from that direction, probably from the 9 towns. I saw them, 6 people in total, 3 severely injured and 3 lightly injured, all ran to the north. They should be Xianyang levels from the 9 towns." Xia Hong interrupted Lu Yang directly, his eyes showing a glint of brilliance. The place was only 10 kilometers from Hongyuan. He had only just gotten rid of 2 great awakening masters at Snow Peak, and was planning to fly west through Hongyuan back to Huayuan, when he had unexpectedly encountered a severely injured Xianyang level fleeing east. He didn't make a sound but concealed himself and moved north, subsequently discovering 5 more Xianyang level presences. The 9 towns, Xianyang level action at Daju Temple must have failed. Mayan Town is not involved in matters here, so at least 8 Xianyang leveled individuals went there, and only 6 returned, with half of them severely injured. Unexpectedly, at least 2 have met some misfortune. Xia Hong had pretty much figured out what happened at the Battle of Hongyuan, so just from these 6 Xianyang level presences, he could deduce the situation roughly. Upon hearing these words, Lu Yang and the others were immediately invigorated. "Lord, the Daju Temple has already occupied Hongyuan. Knowing the 9 towns are severely weakened, they will surely continue east from Hongyuan to invade Jiangxia territory. I see the 9 towns as a pan of loose sand, very unlikely to form an allied army again. As per the Lord's intention, our helping Jiangxia break the siege is perfectly timed." Xia Hong had saved Xia Hong from the Vajra master, and with those just mentioned words that Jiangxia is of great use to us, Lu Yang could naturally infer his intentions. Thus, after asserting that the 9 towns would not form an allied army again, he directly offered a suggestion: to aid Jiangxia in defending against Daju Temple and internally weaken the 9 towns, bringing Jiangxia into the Great Xia camp first. Xia Hong's expression slightly flickered, and a hint of eagerness appeared in his eyes, but after a moment of consideration, he soon shook his head and said, "In providing timely assistance, now is not the time. The 9 towns having suffered such a great loss at Daju Temple will surely have follow-up actions. I don't see the second formation of an allied army as likely, but nothing is absolute. We shall wait and see for now. Letting Daju Temple deplete the 9 towns' strength a bit would be good too." He did not voice this final thought, but as he looked down at Lu Yang and Wang Tao and the others, something suddenly occurred to him. He produced a small cyan porcelain bottle from his bosom and tossed it over. "Tiger Power Pill, Dragon Carp Pill, Green Cod Pill, you've heard of them, right?" Lu Yang caught the porcelain bottle, and upon hearing Xia Hong's question, he immediately guessed something and nodded heavily toward him, his pupils filled with anticipation. "Ha ha ha, at the start of last month, I drove away that red carp monster from Xing River in Huayuan. Now the 10 kilometers of waters in the south of Huayuan belong to our Great Xia, All the formulas for the dragon carp pill and green cod pill are out. Inside are 50 dragon carp pills. Distribute one to each of them. Thank you, Lord, for bestowing the pills. The faces of Lu Yang and the 32 people instantly burst with intense joy. Receiving pills personally granted by Xia Hong delighted them, but it wasn't enough to elicit such exaggerated reactions. The key lay in the waters. Great Xia now controls the 10 kilometers of water south of Huayuan, and they have also developed the dragon carp pills and green cod pills. They were all from East Ridge's cold resistance field, well aware of the situation in the 9 towns, and therefore fully understood the value and function of these 2 pills. Especially Wang Tao, who was of lower war body from Long Mountain, though he now had peak cold resistance cultivation, his basic strength remained stagnated at 11 hairfoots and hadn't changed. Great Xia now also has dragon carp pills and green cod pills. This means that his strength, which had been stagnant for many years, finally has a way to progress further. The contribution value accumulated over the years can also be put to use. For Wang Tao it was such, and naturally the same went for the others. Even though Lu Yang was of superior battle body, who had the power of more than 2.5 hair fists upon breaking through, he now had late-stage cold resistance cultivation with a basic strength of 18 hair fists, meaning his room for improvement was not much, just another 2 hair or so more. Yet the dragon carp pill and green cod pill held significant meaning for him as well. As for contribution value, could he possibly have less than Wang Tao? The allied army most likely won't form. I am pretty much certain that the northern 3 towns definitely won't support Jiangxia. I estimate you all will be returning to East Ridge soon. Xia Hong paused briefly in thought, then added, this time on your way back to East Ridge, focus on gathering intelligence about Mayan Town. I'm quite interested in this Mayan. As you command. Lu Yang and the others still needed to stay undercover in East Ridge, so they couldn't be casually brought back to Xia City. After delivering instructions, Xia Hong reminded them to act cautiously and then directly flew away. Farewell, Lord. Chapter 1041, Chapter 370, Yuzong's birthday, Jiangxia Falls, hunting mode and turning point. After the Battle of Hongyuan, at least 70 to 80,000 Earth-Digging Realm members died, and nearly 100,000 were captured by the Daju Temple. The aftermath is still uncertain. These 180,000 people spread across 8 towns naturally don't count for much. Essentially, it's insignificant. After all, these are just people from the village-level camps under their jurisdiction. Even if many cold resistance-level individuals are included, they don't care at all. But for the village-level camps that provided the people, it's a different story. Don't even mention the cold resistance level. Among these 180,000 Earth-Digging Realm members, which one isn't the backbone of their family? Broadly speaking, these are 180,000 families shattered overnight. Since the 8 towns evenly conscripted personnel, almost covering all village-level camps within their domain, it's no exaggeration to say that once the news spreads, it will inevitably deliver a heavy blow to all village-level camps under the jurisdiction of the 9 towns. This blow, however, will take time to brew. Nevertheless, no matter how the 9 towns and Daju Temple fight fiercely on the eastern side of Hongyuan, it won't impact the Great Xia in the slightest. This fact is beyond doubt. The 8th year of Da Xia, January 15th, the last day of the Cold Yuan Festival. Big brother, Yao wishes you a happy birthday. Big brother, Sheng also wishes you a happy birthday. Ning also wishes brother a happy birthday. Let's drink to it first. In the main hall of the star-picking hall, 4 little ones, each less than 5 years old and shorter than the chair when standing, were seated around a small round table. Among them, 3 younger ones held a small wine cup with both hands, mimicking an adult demeanor as they toasted the eldest, Xia Yuzong, at the head seat. The cups were filled with milky white jam, yet the 3 little ones imitated adults, drinking gestures, raising their cups and downing them in one gulp, then closing their eyes with exaggerated satisfaction as if they were truly savoring wine. Behind the round table, maidservants like Han Yue and Han Shuang watched the 3 theatrically spirited little ones with shaking shoulders, all covering their mouths to stifle laughter, with a few unable to hold back letting out mild chuckles. Cough, cough, cough. Unlike his younger siblings, Xia Yuzong, who just turned 5 today, appeared quite precocious compared to the 3 younger ones. He seemed to realize the maidservants were laughing at him, cheeks slightly flushed, and gently coughed a few times before whispering to the three younger ones. Ah Yao, Ah Sheng, Ah Ning, Aunt will be out soon. Quickly put down your cups and sit properly or she'll see you. The three little ones seemed to have hit their sore spot, especially Xia Yuyao and Xia Yusheng, who, upon hearing their mother was coming out soon, immediately put down their cups and sat up straight, then turned to look toward the entrance of the star-picking platform at the back of the main hall, only to find no one was there. They immediately turned angrily to Xia Yuzong. Big brother, you're such a big liar, HMPH. Xia Yuyao, not one to be easily calmed, placed her hands on her hips and pouted fiercely. Ah Yao, you're being rude to big brother again. However, as soon as she spoke, a cool female voice came from behind. Upon hearing the voice, Xia Yuyao quickly put down her crossed hands, laying them flat on the table, and immediately resumed an innocent expression, transforming into a well-behaved girl. Xia Yusheng did the same, and even Xia Yuning straightened her posture considerably, evidently holding their aunt in high regard. Only you can handle these little troublemakers, sister-in-law, haha. Li Xuanling had just descended from the star-picking platform, and Zio Ning and Zio Yu arrived at the entrance of the main hall. Witnessing the four little ones being obediently managed, they couldn't suppress laughter. They're at the mischievous age now, and if not disciplined, they'll cause trouble later on. Li Xuanling evidently had her parenting philosophy, though her words were strict. She approached the table, picked up Xia Yuyao, placed her on her lap, and with a smile said to her two younger siblings, "Come, sit down. Your big brother and Xia Chuan will be here soon." Zio Ning and Zio Yu nodded and sat down. This year's Cold Yuan festival went by so quickly. Before you know it, it's over. If it weren't for Yuzong's birthday, your big brother and Xia Chuan might still be in Huayuan and wouldn't have returned. Li Xuanling signaled to maidservants like Han Yue to serve the dishes, then turned to chat with Zio Ning and Zio Yu. Zio Ning laughed. The great Xia just expanded the aquatic products. The Huayuan waters are vital for many important Dan medicine productions, so they naturally require great effort to manage. My brother and husband aren't at ease, so they have to be there personally. It's not just that, sister-in-law. I heard the battle between the 9 towns and Daju Temple is exceptionally deadlocked, with new reports coming in daily. My brother and husband have to monitor it occasionally. Staying in Huayuan is certainly more convenient. Li Xuanling nodded, knowing well the situation between the 9 towns and Daju Temple due to Xia Hong and Xia Chuan overseeing Huayuan, with many matters in Xia City falling under her responsibilities. However, now was clearly not the time to discuss these matters. She turned to the day's protagonist, Xia Yuzong, who wore a little adult's demeanor, couldn't help but pat his head and smiled. Yuzong is turning 5 today. After the next Cold Yuan festival, you'll be able to eat beast meat and start formal cultivation. Are you a little anxious now? Hearing the words eat beast meat and start formal cultivation, Xia Yuzong's little face lit up with excitement, clearly struck by Li Xuanling's words. Then uncle asks you, once you start cultivation next year, do you have the confidence to break the martial arts pavilion's record for breaking through the earth-digging realm? Chapter 1042, Chapter 370, Yuzong's Birthday, Jiangxia's Fall, Fishing Hunting Mode and Turning Point Part 2. Yes, Xia Yuzong responded almost without thinking, his face full of confidence. Li Xuanling immediately smiled, reaching out to touch his head. The answer to this question can actually be seen right now. This year, Xia Yuzong just turned 5, and relying solely on supplementary food, his strength has already increased by more than 4,000 pounds. At this pace, he will surely achieve a breakthrough to the logging realm before turning 6 next year. Both Xia Yuzong and Xia Yuning, the siblings, were born with their own holy patterns, so their cultivation talents are undoubtedly high. When they start cultivating next year, their progress will be rapid. There's no need to even think about it. The current record for the youngest breakthrough to the earth-digging realm in the Great Xia Martial Arts Pavilion is 9 years and 1 month. With Xia Yuzong's current displayed talent, breaking this record is practically guaranteed. Mom, I want to break the record. Xia Yusheng seemed to feel a bit ignored, so he spoke up, indicating to his mother that he could break the record too. Li Xuanling's expression became somewhat peculiar upon hearing her youngest son's words. Zio Ning and Zio Yu, the 2 aunts, instinctively glanced at Xia Yusheng, and their expressions also turned a bit peculiar. At present, Xia Yusheng's basic strength is over 8,000 pounds. At this rate, he might break through to the earth-digging realm by August next year, placing the record in the martial arts pavilion, which is just too overwhelming. Yuzong, let your uncle test you. Why must everyone in Great Xia wait until they turn 6 to eat beast meat and officially start cultivating? Suddenly, a voice came from the entrance of the hall. Greetings to the Lord, greetings to the minister. The maids, Han Yue and Han Shuang, turned and bowed towards the entrance upon hearing the voice. Li Xuanling, as well as Xiao Ning and Xiao Yu, stood up, seeing Xia Hong wave his hand signaling them to sit back down. Dad, Father, Xia Yuyao and Xia Yusheng both rushed to Xia Hong, the former jumping straight out of their mother's embrace, the latter hopping down from the chair. Upon hearing his uncle's voice, Xia Yuzong also stood up excitedly. But being slightly older, he carried the responsibility of an elder brother, so he thought about Xia Hong's question and then clearly replied. In response to uncle's question, according to Xia Lai System chapter, only when one turns 6, the 5 viscera meridian is fully formed to absorb the powerful energy from beast meat, using this energy to enhance the physique. Hence, everyone in Great Xia must be 6 years old to officially start cultivating. Xia Hong had already reached the table, holding his 2 children. Listening to his nephew's meticulous response, his face showed satisfaction, and a fleeting gleam passed through his eyes. Following Xia Hong, Xia Chuan gave Xiao Ning a look of approval, obviously praising how well she taught her son. Yuzong answered well. When you can officially practice martial arts next year, I'll teach you personally as a reward for your correct answer. How about that? Upon hearing this, Xia Yuzong looked at Xia Hong with joy, nodding vigorously. Although he was only 5, he clearly knew that the strongest person in all of Great Xia was his uncle standing before him. Having his uncle personally teach him martial arts was an honor beyond measure, and his friends would surely envy him to death. Brother, a child's martial arts enlightenment at the age of 6. All right, let's proceed with the banquet. I'm feeling hungry. Xia Hong directly interrupted Xia Chuan, calling everyone to start the banquet. Since Xia Hong and Xia Chuan returned to Huayuan from December 1st, they hadn't been back to Xia City. Even this year's Cold Yuan banquet was hosted by Li Xuanling, so today's family banquet was not only for Xia Yuzong's birthday, but also a makeup for the Cold Yuan festival. After an array of feasting, the 4 little ones couldn't sit still and went off to play in the side hall's martial field. With only adults remaining at the table, Xia Hong began to inquire about serious matters with Li Xuanling. How many soldiers in Cloud Jiao Longwu have yet to break through to the cold resistance level? Cloud Jiao Army still needs 421, Dragon Martial Army 409. Upon hearing this, Xia Hong furrowed his brows initially, then relaxed after a moment of thought. If he remembered correctly, last time those numbers were 587 and 562 respectively. In early October, he instructed Xia Chuan to free up cultivation spots in the martial arts pavilion for the soldiers of Cloud Jiao Longwu who hadn't yet broken through the cold resistance level. And now it's January 15th, so in about 70+ days of time, reaching 150-60 soldiers breaking through from each army is commendable. Li Xuanling, perceiving his thoughts, softly said, breaking through the cold resistance level is different from the earth-digging realm, partly due to the suffering of skin remodeling, and partly because many soldiers aim for a higher-level war body, so they deliberately hold back their cultivation to break through at the limit. There's no help for it. Every day, having 4 to 5 soldiers break through is already the limit. After observing in the martial arts hall, all 800+ remaining soldiers will take at least 4 more months to complete their breakthrough. 4 months. Xia Hong's brows, which had relaxed, furrowed together again. Even Xia Chuan beside him put down his chopsticks, entering into deep thought. Seeing their reactions, Li Xuanling immediately sensed something, showing a hint of curiosity on her face, asking, has the situation in 9 towns changed? Clearly, both were dissatisfied with the slow breakthrough speed of the soldiers. Given their consistent presence in Huayuan, Li Xuanling could easily surmise the reason. Seeing her curiosity, Xia Hong didn't plan to conceal, knowing she'd be governing Xia City for a while, and signaled Xia Chuan to explain the situation to Li Xuanling. Chapter 1043, Chapter 370, Yuzong's Birthday, Jiangxia Falls, Fishing Hunting Mode and Turning Point /3. Xia Chuan understood and nodded. By the end of November, after the Battle of Hongyuan ended, Daju Temple rested for only 5 days. On the 5th day of last month, Daju Temple led its army to attack Peak Mountain Camp, and not a single reinforcements from the 8 towns were sent. Jiangxia town just put up a token resistance before retreating. After taking Peak Mountain Camp, Daju Temple advanced triumphantly, capturing 18 village-level camps in Jiangxia, plus the 3 from before, meaning half of Jiangxia's entire territory has already been taken by Daju Temple. Upon hearing this, Li Xuanling showed a look of astonishment on her face, filled with disbelief. 45 days and half the territory is taken. Isn't Jiangxia supposed to be a town-level camp? The Battle of Hongyuan cost only 2,000 defensive army troops. They still have 5,000 men. How could they be defeated so badly? Daju Temple's methods of winning hearts are too strong. After saying this, Xia Chuan's expression turned somewhat serious and continued. The prisoners from the 9 towns earth-digging realm captured in the Battle of Hongyuan were all released by Daju Temple, including a large number of people from Jiangxia's village-level camps. When these people returned to their respective villages, they encountered no resistance upon Daju Temple's arrival. Some even directly raised a crowd to rebel, helping Daju Temple capture the villages, behaving as if they were bewitched. It cannot be said to be bewitched. Anyone who experienced the Battle of Hongyuan, witnessing those people become invulnerable to blades and spears, is hard to forget, not to mention the news from Jinbai village about the earth-digging realm's daytime combat has now spread widely. Appearing in the cold sun unharmed and becoming impervious to weapons, these 2 tactics of Daju Temple are highly attractive to the earth-digging realm of those village-level camps. Who wouldn't be tempted? None of those village-level camps are an exception. Once captured by Daju Temple, they would switch sides within 2 days. Many from the earth-digging realm immediately joined Daju Temple's army as the vanguard. As of 5 days ago, the number of earth-digging realm troops under Daju Temple's command had already reached 150,000, and it continues to grow rapidly. According to the message relayed by Xiang Liang, the number at the cold resistance level now exceeds 500. Hearing this, Li Xuanling's expression became much more serious. As the numbers grow, how can this battle continue to be fought? Are the other 8 towns just ignoring Jiangxia entirely? If Daju Temple continues to grow, they too will suffer in the end. Surely the 8 towns understand this. Of course they do. Xia Hong had a faint smile on his face and continued, but the northern 3 towns are far away, and Daju Temple's fire has so far only reached the head of Jiangxia town. Even if Jiangxia falls, the central south 5 towns are there to hold the front. It will be a long time before the threat reaches them. Do you think they'll intervene? Li Xuanling's mind conjured up a map of the 9 towns, and she immediately understood. At the beginning of December, Jiangxia invited the guards of the 8 towns to Peak Mountain Camp for discussions, but not a single one offered to help. Jiangxia probably realized the intentions of the 8 towns and simply retreated. In the last 40-plus days, they've barely organized any decent resistance, only concentrating on fortifying their defenses, relocating everything possible to the town, effectively giving away half the territory. As Xia Chuan spoke, he shook his head, clearly not in agreement with Jiangxia's actions. Xia Hong chuckled and said, with the 8 towns unwilling to help, they had no other choice. They couldn't win by hard resistance, so they chose to retreat. I guess they're thinking that Daju Temple needs people anyway, so they might as well let them have the village-level camps. As long as they hold the town, Jiangxia won't perish. Fueling the fire with firewood. These 4 words instantly flashed in Li Xuanling's mind. By giving away village-level camps to Daju Temple, it might seem like sacrificing a car to save the king, but in reality, it's undoubtedly feeding the enemy. As strong as Daju Temple already is, if they continue to strengthen, who will have a way out? Do you think Jiangxia doesn't know that? Xia Hong immediately caught on to Li Xuanling's thoughts, and after the rhetorical question, his eyes flickered slightly, continuing. What Jiangxia is doing is telling the other 8 towns that if they die, everyone dies together, unless Daju Temple directly attacks Jiangxia City, in which case there's nothing they can do. Otherwise, it's impossible to expect Jiangxia to fight Daju Temple alone. Li Xuanling was momentarily at a loss for words, unsure how to evaluate Jiangxia's actions. While it may be somewhat rogue, this approach seems to be working. Hearing Xia Chuan's words, Li Xuanling looked at him in confusion. 3 days ago, Daju Temple started mobilizing troops again. Without any surprises, their target should be binge camp. In the past month and a half, they have already lost Hongyuan, Peak Mountain, and Longzhou camps. Now they only have Binjiang and Xiang left. Binjiang camp is located on the east bank of the Xing River, tied to the water domain, and is considered a crucial lifeline for Jiangxia. If it's taken by Daju Temple, it would be fundamentally damaging. Xia Zhang and Zhang Yinglong are unwilling to lose it, so they've sent people to seek aid from the central south 5 towns again. Xia Chuan paused for a moment before continuing. According to intelligence from the scouts, this time it's Jiang Yinglong's son, Jiang Xinfan, the protector of Jiangxia town, personally visiting the 5 towns one by one. There should be some effect, and perhaps they can indeed bring in reinforcements. The northern 3 towns are powerful and far away, so it's understandable that they're watching from the sidelines. But the central south 5 towns shouldn't be this foolish, should they? Once Daju Temple takes Jiangxia town, won't their next target be them? Xia Chuan suddenly asked softly, looking puzzled. Li Xuanling was also full of confusion and speculated, wishful thinking. Chapter 1044, Chapter 370, Yuzong's birthday, Jiangxia's fall, fishing hunting mode and turning point /4. Let us have both. It depends on whether the 5 towns will help this time. Jiangxia has already lost half its territory, and if Binjiang is lost too, even the Xiang camp won't be of much use. In the end, they'll truly have to retreat into the town for self-preservation. So, big brother, when will we take action? Xia Chuan finally couldn't help but ask the most crucial question. This question had obviously been bottled up in his heart for a long time. After asking it, his expression first relaxed slightly, then he looked up at Xia Hong with great expectation. It's still very early, there's no need to rush. The northern 3 towns aren't moving, so neither will we. I can give you a hint. This fire of Daju Temple will never burn onto the head of our great Xia. Hearing Xia Hong's final words, Li Xuanling and Xia Chuan both were taken aback, but quickly understood the meaning, their eyes filled with both surprise and curiosity. In the first 40 days, Jiangxia sought assistance from the 5 towns twice and was refused both times. They say 3rd time's the charm. If Jiangxia fails again this time, they'll likely be disheartened. I reckon in the end they will most probably seek reconciliation with Daju Temple. Reconciliation. Upon hearing this, Xia Chuan shook his head and said, Jiangxia is isolated and without help, and Daju Temple's position is overwhelmingly favorable. How could they easily cease fighting? Xia Hong laughed and said, there are many ways to reconcile, it's just a matter of terms. Jiangxia still holds half its territory, don't they? Destroying Jiangxia town is not the core objective of Daju Temple. What they ultimately want is just the population, and in truth, destroying Jiangxia town would be more harmful than beneficial. Devastating Jiangxia town would indeed allow Daju Temple to gather a large population, but it would inevitably cause greater apprehension among the other 8 towns. If the 8 towns were to seriously form a coalition army against them, even with Daju Temple's strength, they would have to reconsider. Li Xuanling and Xia Chuan immediately understood, nodding slightly. Xia Chuan suddenly thought of something and said, Daju Temple's troop movement to Binjiang camp this time was unhurried, unlike before, clearly deliberately slowing their advance. I feel they are intentionally giving time for Jiangxia to seek assistance. With Bai Shenkyu and Xiang Liang, Xia Hong and Xia Chuan clearly understood the basic movements of Daju Temple's army. Daju Temple began advancing toward Binjiang 3 days ago, and the news was returned to Huayuan just yesterday morning. When Xia Chuan saw the news yesterday morning, he couldn't immediately understand why Daju Temple would slow their march. It seemed now he had an answer. Upon hearing this, Xia Hong's eyes slightly brightened as he turned to Xia Chuan, his voice carrying a testing tone as he asked, what's the reason? This question had evidently been on Xia Chuan's mind for a long time, and he had a ready answer, speaking out 4 words in a steady voice. Divide the 9 towns. Hearing these 4 words, Xia Hong looked at Xia Chuan with full admiration. It wasn't just admiration. At this moment, there was a bit of awe in Xia Hong's heart, awed by Xia Chuan's astonishing growth speed. My thoughts are much the same. That Yan Xin chief from Daju Temple is very shrewd. If I'm not mistaken, Binjiang camp is Jiangxia's only chance for self-rescue. Whether by bringing in reinforcements or negotiating with Daju Temple, as long as they can hold there, they can maintain their base and need not retreat into the town, and the situation is about to change drastically, with a turnaround soon to come. These words from Xia Hong were vague, causing Xiao Ning and Xiao Yu to look a bit puzzled, while Xia Chuan and Li Xuanling lowered their heads into thought, pondering what Xia Hong meant by a drastic change and turnaround. The Mo calendar, year 132, January 21. Beishuo Town Main Hall. Yang Fezheng stood beneath the main seat as Huang Tianxing hurriedly entered from outside the hall. Upon seeing Yang Fa, he immediately bowed. Subordinate pays respects to the guardian. Any news? To report, Jiang Xinfan has returned to Jiangxia from Bashing. It seems Bashing has refused him. Currently, only Yank and Dragon Valley have mobilized their defensive armies, looking as if they intend to support Jiangxia. Upon hearing this, Yang Fa revealed a smile, saying, as expected, with Cao Qianhai and Long Mingfeng killed, these two towns harbor deep resentment toward Daju Temple. After holding back for nearly 2 months, they finally couldn't endure. In each of the 9 towns, there are only 2 or 3 Xianyang levels. And in the 6 towns in the central south, Bashing, Jiangxia, Chui Mountain, and Mayan, each have 2 Xianyang levels. No, Mayan now has only 1 left. Only Dragon Valley and Yank have 3. With 3 Xianyang levels, Dragon Valley and Yank have long held a position clearly higher than the other 4 towns in the central south. But now everything has changed. Why wouldn't Dragon Valley and Yank resent Daju Temple? For nearly 2 months prior, the 2 towns surprisingly restrained themselves from assisting Jiangxia against Daju Temple, which was quite unexpected to Yang Fa. Now the 2 towns have finally seen the light. What use are 2 towns' support? Against Daju Temple, they're bound to lose unless the lords of these 2 towns personally take action, bringing all the defensive armies and elites with them. Only then might they have some chance of success. Huang Tianxing's face immediately broke into a smile, saying, in this way, all 3 towns will be dragged into the flames of war by Daju Temple. He clearly understood Yang Fa's intention, but after speaking, he quickly thought of something else, retracting his smile and said solemnly, but sir, the expansion speed of Daju Temple is indeed too fast. Having seized half of Jiangxia's territory, if indulged further, wouldn't it become a major threat? Rest assured, in the battle with Daju Temple, the Lord has already gathered a lot of useful intelligence. He is currently with Shangyuan Yang and Qin Feng and Chenkai, investigating ways to break the treachery. It will be resolved when they return. Chapter 1045, Chapter 370, Yuzong's Birthday, Jiangxia Falls, Fishing Hunting Mode and Turning Point /5. Hearing the words Chen and Kai, Huang Tianxing's pupils slightly contracted, and a hint of excitement appeared on his face as he nodded heavily. Landgrave leads the territory, deceitful objects forbidden land. Chen and Kai must have a mysterious method to counter it. In this way, Daju Temple really poses no threat. The northern 3 towns only need to let Daju Temple continue to deplete the strength of the 6 towns in the central south, and when the time is right, then. The 8th year of Dazia, on the last day of January, daytime. Xing River 5 Origin Basin, a 20-meter-long iron ship is drifting in the waters more than 100 meters from the shore. Spread the bait. Snap! With a loud shout from the leader, more than 30 people standing on the ship immediately scattered a large amount of unknown yellow-white powder into the water. These powder clusters were not heavy, and they floated immediately upon hitting the water. 5 people holding silver fish spears about 1 meter long were constantly changing positions around the ship. Judging by their actions, they were clearly searching for a target underwater. Although the spear handles are silver, a close examination reveals it's due to an abundance of forging patterns, numbering 10,000, giving it a silver color rather than being silver-made. In contrast, the 12 sharp hooks with barbs at the spear's head shine brilliantly, and they don't show any forging patterns unless closely looked at. Those experienced can see its genuine silver material. The spear's tail is also equipped with a thick chain, made of 10,000 forged material, connected to the ship's core. The entire ship was silent. Even the 5 who held silver fish spears were treading carefully, trying to remain quiet. At the front of the ship, a young man in black, about 30 years old, seemed to have discovered something. He lowered his head, looking into the water with shining eyes. A person holding a strong bow next to him noticed his anomaly, turned to look at the spot on the water surface he was focused on, and immediately held his breath. Indeed, underwater appeared 2 fist-sized bright lights, and behind the lights was a large shadow, rapidly approaching the water's surface. As the shadow grew larger, about a quarter of the ship's size, the young man in black swiftly acted, throwing the fish spear fiercely underwater. Whiz, 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 boom, crash. The spear plunged into the water, instantly pulling the thick chain at its tail, plunging underwater for about 10 meters until it was halted by its length. The chain strained straight, fully showcasing the strength the young man in black exerted when throwing the spear. Goo-goo-goo. Simultaneously, an eerie sound emerged from underwater, and the chain began swaying left and right, causing the ship to sink sharply. However, the ship was clearly designed by weight and size. No matter how it was tugged, it wouldn't sink. The creature underwater soon realized it couldn't pull it down, so it changed tactics and started swimming south, attempting to drag the entire ship to the middle of the waters. Boom crash. However, barely pulled forward by 10 meters on the north side of the ship, a giant rough iron chain connected to the shore, about half a meter thick, floated above the water and strained tight, holding the ship firmly in place in the waters 100 meters from the shore, immovable by the creature's force. "We've got something here, come help." The young man in black who had thrown the fish spear shouted, grasping the chain connected to the fish spear with both hands, his face reddening as he fiercely pulled it back. Splash! A black monstrous fish, 5 to 6 meters long, was forcefully pulled half out of the water by the young man. The fish was covered in scales black as ink, which gleamed under the cold light, resembling pieces of ink jade with a unique beauty. "Ha ha ha, a new species, hurry over quick." Seeing the creature's appearance, the young man in black was delighted, immediately urging everyone on the ship to speed up. Whiz whiz. The other 30-plus people on the ship, upon hearing the words "new species," were instantly excited, but didn't forget their task, quickly took out longbows, knocked their silver-sharp arrows, and madly fired at the black monstrous fish. Thud thud. At the same time, 4 more fish spears swiftly flew at the black monstrous fish, piercing straight through its body. The 4 who threw the spears also quickly pulled up their chains, joining the young man in black in tightly holding the monstrous fish, allowing others to shoot at it. The blood from the fish pierced by the arrows was unexpectedly green jade color, identical to the bone color of advanced cold beasts. Thud thud. With over 100 sharp arrows embedding into its body, the thrashing of the black monstrous fish in the water grew smaller, and the pressure on the 5 who pulled the chains noticeably reduced. Drag it back. The young man in black directly released the chain, then ordered the other 4 to drag the dying black fish to the ship's edge. The black monstrous fish was completely exhausted, dragged underwater, unable to move its body. "A new species. We have the naming rights, everyone. What should it be called?" "How about Black Chuan?" Qiu Sijeng caught it. "Let's use the director's name, call it Chuanpeng." "Ha ha ha, you can't be serious. This monstrous fish has great strength. Chuan Sha sounds better." Splash. Amidst everyone's merry discussion, the underwater monstrous fish suddenly opened its eyes, fiercely thumped its tail in the water, flipping its body as it sprang out of the surface, opening its huge mouth at the ship, spraying a mass of black, oil-like substance. Thump. Dodge. Qiu Peng was clearly caught off guard but still yelled for everyone to retreat. However, the monstrous fish had planned and acted without warning, and the black substance it sprayed was far too much, nearly covering the entire ship. This iron ship, without cabins and only a deck, made it impossible for all 30-plus people, no matter how quick, to evade in time. Chapter 1046, Chapter 370, Yuzong's Birthday, Jiangxia Falls, Fishing Hunting Mode and Turning Point /6. Careless. Qiu Peng looked somewhat flustered. His late-stage cold resistance cultivation and 19 main power meant he was quick, surely able to avoid it himself, but the more than 30 others on the ship weren't as lucky. As the black substance was about to engulf them, his expression darkened instantly, hoping that it wasn't some lethal toxin. Well, but at this critical moment, 100-meter-high wave surged from the north side of the ship, precisely sweeping away all the black substance spat by the monster fish. It wasn't over. The wave carried an extremely terrifying power, striking the black fish and sending it flying more than 10 meters away. Boom! 5 fish spears emerged at once, and the entire ship shook violently several times. If the last spear hadn't held, the monster fish would have been thrown much farther than 10 meters. Having foreseen the wave, everyone turned towards the northern side, bowing deeply. "Greetings, Lord." In the low sky on the north side of the ship, Xia Hong stood airborne, clad in black, holding a 5 or 6 meter long golden whip, shaking his head at Qiu Peng repeatedly. "Long periods without hunting have made you rusty. I taught you during your time in the logging realm. Never be careless until the prey is thoroughly dead. Just a few years and you've forgotten completely. This monster fish relies on underwater agility, with strength at most that of three maned. If even it can cost you a few people, the fishing costs are too high. Great Xia shouldn't bother coming here anymore. Hearing Xia Hong's harsh reprimand, the more than 30 people lowered their heads immediately, with Qiu Peng, who was named, feeling particularly ashamed with a flushed face. Your mistake this time isn't from water domain experience but pure carelessness. This black fish doesn't count towards contribution value. Hand it over to the camp supply department as punishment. Remember, you only have one life. Today was by chance. Next time luck might not be on your side. The subordinate will remember the Lord's teachings and never make such a mistake again. Will remember the Lord's teachings and never make such a mistake again. Qiu Peng led everyone in admitting their fault with clasped hands. Upon hearing no response from Xia Hong for a long time, he cautiously looked up to find Xia Hong was no longer there. Today was my fault as director, almost dragging everyone down. The Lord was right. I stayed too long in Xia City and forgot all he taught before. Brothers, I apologize. Qiu Peng faced everyone, bowing sincerely to apologize. Director, there's no need for this. Fishing is everyone's business, not just the director's fault. We were foolish too. There's no need for the director to do this. Everyone was somewhat alarmed, quickly reassuring him it wasn't necessary. Lack of experience in water region fishing is indeed a problem, but this cannot be quickly improved. It'll have to be gradual. In the sky above the Xing River north bank, Xia Hong stood airborne, looking at the 100-meter-wide flowing water area, appearing thoughtful. Fishing itself is a high-difficulty activity. 100 meters is enough for now. The water-cold beast inside is too strong, facing even cold resistance level is hard, and it's dangerous to venture further from the shore, so this suffices. This 100-meter flowing water area by the shore was forcibly created by Xia Hong breaking the ice surface. Ships, fish spears, and chains are fixed. The research over 3+ months was led by Mu Dong and the craftsman department, of course with Xia Hong's cooperation. The ships built now aren't much related to transportation, only a fishing platform at best, and encountering strong water-cold beasts might not always be effective. Yet this ship took over a month to construct, requiring at least more than 10 million pounds of iron ore, according to Mu Dong. Xia Hong gazed down at the mere 20-meter-long ship, shaking his head repeatedly. In truth, it's understandable. Water-cold beasts and land-cold beasts are entirely different species. Even the weakest in water have at least one manpower, like intermediate cold beasts on land. But they aren't comparable at all. Water areas are their domain, making hunting them much harder than on land, at least 10 times more difficult. The ship as a fishing platform must not only withstand underwater cold beasts' pulls, but also their impacts. 10,000 forged iron materials are the minimum standard, which Mu Dong personally tested. Moreover, humans' power in water is reduced by 70 to 80%, requiring silver-made tools like spear tips and even bone-piercing arrows for effectiveness. The fishing costs are high, but the yields are substantial. The fishing model seems solid, so let's take it step by step. Xia Hong sighed softly, then looked at the golden whip in his hand, eyes twinkling with humor. Driving water waves unexpectedly brings joy. Who knew red carp monster's golden gills had such an effect? In early October in Huayuan, Xia Hong drove away the red carp monster, slicing a piece of its golden tassel-like gills around 30 meters long. The alchemy pavilion confirmed it couldn't be used for medicine. Xia Hong found the material sturdy and had it crafted into this 5-meter-long golden whip by the artifact refining workshop. Pity I'm only inept using whips, but Xuanling excels with this, so she can use it first. Xia Hong pondered for a while, stored the whip, and descended on the north shore ground, walking back towards Huayuan. After a short distance, he paused, looked up at Xi Ping approaching hurriedly from the north, revealing a hint of brightness in his eyes. Not hiding his presence, Xi Ping spotted him from afar, hurriedly approaching with a joyful expression, clasping his hands excitedly. Report, Lord, we have news. Daju Temple has been unable to capture, withdrawing troops from Binjiang camp. Also, Jiangxia Town Chief Jiang Xinfen personally met Daju Temple head Yan Xin 2 days ago at Hongyuan camp, likely seeking peace. Given Daju Temple's retreat, they're probably successful. The turning point for Jiangxia has arrived. Upon hearing this, Xia Hong's eyes shone with brilliance, quickly heading towards Huayuan. Discuss further in Huayuan. Chapter 1047. Chapter 371, Troop Withdrawal, Entrustment, Alarm in Bashing, and Sudden Turn of Events. Huayuan originally should have been called 5-8 Mountain. Because the mountain has 5 dangerous peaks, resembling a giant upright hand, it was named 5-8 Mountain. In April of the first year, Great Xia destroyed the Three Tigers camp, incorporating the entire 5-8 Mountain into its territory. Initially, for convenience, it was referred to as 5 Apes. Later, considering that ape was an inauspicious word related to beasts, the name was changed to Yuan, thus the name Huayuan came about. 7 years have passed, and Huayuan has undergone earth-shattering changes. Especially 4 years ago, when Xia Hong established this place as Great Xia's bridgehead for eastern expansion and set up 8 subordinate offices. The changes here have been rapid and continuous. Moreover, last October, Xia Hong personally drove away the red carp monster, securing a 15-kilometer stretch of coastal waters, further fueling Huayuan's growth. It has now become the most important stronghold within Great Xia's territory, undisputedly so. Xia Hong, accompanied by Xiping, swiftly passed through the snow forest, heading 3 kilometers north, and from a distance, they saw a fan-shaped city wall stretching 15 kilometers east to west. Huayuan, during Su Ning's administration, had already seen the construction of a city. The city wall was modeled after the original Long Mountain outpost, where hundreds of 8-meter-long 5-cornered iron piles were driven into the ground, creating a fan-shaped city fortress along the cliffs of 5-8 Mountain, with the total length of the city wall extending 3 kilometers beyond the original Long Mountain. Greetings to the Lord Guardian. No need for formalities, continue your duties. Xia Hong, with Xiping, passed through the city gate and headed straight for the main hall of the government office. Inside the main hall, Xia Chuan was in a heated discussion with Yuan Dao, Yuan Cheng, and Luo Yuan. Upon seeing Xia Hong enter, they quickly paid their respects to him. Greetings to the Lord. Xia Hong took the main seat, saw Xia Chuan preparing to hand him the letters returned by Bai Xiang and the others, and waved it off, saying, "No need to show me, just tell me the specifics." Xia Chuan nodded, put away the letters, clasped his hands, and said, "On the 17th of this month, a total of 5,000 defensive army troops from Yonk and Dragon Valley entered Jiangxia territory from the east, directly reaching Binjiang camp. Adding Jiangxia's own 5,000 defensive army troops, this is 10,000 soldiers. Additionally, Jiangxia has mobilized 90,000 earth-digging realm troops from the town, and the remaining 24 village-level camps within its territory, amassing a total of 150,000 earth-digging realm troops, thus forming an absolute advantage over Daju Temple in terms of force. On the 19th, 21st, and 23rd, Daju Temple launched 3 assaults on Binjiang camp, 2 during the day and 1 at night, all ending in failure. On Daju Temple's side, Jin Yang, Ju Kong, Hai Yan, and more than 50 official bhikkhus died in battle, leaving just over 2,000 Zen Temple bhikkhus alive, with around 90,000 earth-digging realm troops remaining. The 3 towns also suffered greatly, with deaths estimated at over 3,000, primarily from Jiangxia, leaving only over 4,000 out of 10,000 defensive army troops and around 80,000 earth-digging realm troops, with casualties similar to those of Daju Temple. Upon hearing the casualty figures, Xia Hong raised an eyebrow and asked, "Just these? What about the Xianyang level on both sides?" "I was just getting to that. 2 days ago, on the 23rd during the daytime battle, Binjiang camp was nearly breached. At the last moment, Zhang Yinglong, Zai Hu Zhang, Long Minjuan, and Cao Kainyang all intervened. Although Daju Temple only brought Jin Yang, Yan Long, and Hai Ming, they pressed hard on all 4 throughout. According to Bai Shenkyu, Zhang Yinglong and the others fought desperately, dragging the battle into the night, barely managing to disperse the enemy with 10,000 earth-digging realm troops. The 3 masters, seeing no hope of breaking through, finally stopped and ordered Yan Xin to retreat. After Xia Chuan finished, Yuan Dao and the others looked slightly tense. The combined total military strength on both sides exceeded 300,000, not to mention there were thousands of cold resistance level, and over 10,000 defensive army troops included. Even 7 Xianyang-level individuals took action. Just hearing about it, one could imagine how intense the battle at Binjiang camp was. Though Xia Hong's eyes flickered slightly, upon hearing the Xianyang-level battle situation, his face did not show much surprise. 8 Xianyang-level individuals went to Daju Temple and 2 didn't return, with 3 heavily injured, let alone dealing with 4 Xianyang levels. Fortunately, it was battlefield combat, not solo duels, and those three masters at Daju Temple probably had some tactics they dared not use openly with so many watching. Otherwise, Zhang Yinglong and the others would likely be dead. There was obviously much news in the message returned by Xia Hong and the others. Seeing everyone's expressions calm, Xia Chuan continued. After the battle on the 23rd ended, Daju Temple retreated to Hongyuan. The next day, on the 24th daytime, Jiangxia Town's town chief, Jiang Xinfan, personally went to Hongyuan to meet with Yan Xin chief. It's unclear what Jiang Xinfan and Yan Xin specifically discussed, but the night after they finished talking, on the 24th, all the several tens of thousands of troops from Daju Temple, stationed west of Binjiang Camp, retreated to Hongyuan. Negotiations occurred. It must have been negotiations. Daju Temple hasn't been able to take down the camp after all this time, continuing would just waste resources. The leaders of the three towns all appeared, and Daju Temple must be worried about the other 6 towns getting involved if they kept fighting. Upon hearing this, Yuan Dao and others immediately spoke up. Xia Chuan, hearing their words, nodded in agreement. This is an obvious matter, and there are likely no errors in it. Is it negotiation or seeking peace? However, Xia Hong at this time suddenly posed a question. The crowd paused in surprise at his words and then began to ponder. Negotiation occurs when both sides wish to stop fighting, whereas seeking peace occurs when only one side wants to stop the fight and doesn't dare continue, prompting them to initiate talks for a ceasefire with the other side. Chapter 1048, Chapter 371, Retreat and Ceasefire, Entrustment, Panic in Bashing, Sudden Turn of Events, Part 2. It was Jiang Xinfan who took the initiative to go to the Hongyuan camp, of course, to seek peace. Xia Chuan was the first to give an answer, and Yuan Dao and the others immediately nodded in agreement. Brother, there's another important message from the Jiangxia spies. Xia Chuan suddenly took out a letter, paused after speaking, his pupils showing a hint of excitement, and continued. On the night of the 20th, Jiangxia suddenly sealed off the town, prohibiting anyone from entering or leaving. All the stationed defensive army and cold resistance level were summoned back to the town. Jiangxia spies. Last year, Xia Hong had Xia Chuan send a few cold resistance level to infiltrate the 8 towns from the East Ridge, and now these spies were starting to send messages back. On the night of the 23rd, the town was sealed off, not allowing anyone in or out. Xia Hong pondered for a moment, suddenly thought of something, and sharply looked up at Xia Chuan. Did something happen to Jiang Yinglong? On the 23rd, Jiang Yinglong and his 4 companions fought desperately to drag the battle into the night, and then in the late night, Jiangxia sealed the town, not allowing anyone in or out. This clearly indicated that they wanted to block some major news, and it was likely news unfavorable to Jiangxia. Besides something happening to Jiang Yinglong, there seemed to be no other reason. Xia Chuan evidently had thought of this link, nodded excitedly and said, "It could also be Zai Hu Zhang, surely one of these two met with an incident. Most likely it was Jiang Yinglong." Xia Hong didn't say this out loud. At the end of November, during the Hongyuan battle, when he saved Zai Hu Zhang from the hands of the 2 great masters, Yan Long and Vajra, he personally saw a severely injured Xianyang level fly towards Jiangxia town, and 9 times out of 10, it was Jiang Yinglong. That injury was much more severe than Zai Hu Zhang's, not something that could heal in 2 or 3 months. Combining this message, Jiang Yinglong's injury wasn't healed, and he fought desperately with the 3 great masters at Binjiang Camp, so he having problems was a very likely event. Locking down the town, they feared the news would spread to the other 8 towns. At this moment, Yuan Dao also realized and spoke in a low voice. This would really fit together. Jiangxia is badly injured, unable to continue fighting. They would agree to cede territory in exchange for peace, using any conditions just to keep the town intact. On the Daju Temple's side, fighting 1 against 3, they've suffered quite a loss and wouldn't dare press too hard. They might as well agree to retreat and stop the conflict. The army is indeed retreating, but stopping the war isn't certain yet. Xia Hong suddenly caught Yuan Dao's words. Hearing this, Xia Chuan and the others froze. But they quickly understood the meaning of Xia Hong's words. Their expressions changed drastically. That's what brother meant by Jiangxia's turnaround. Especially Xia Chuan, who suddenly understood, recalling what Xia Hong had said at the family banquet half a month ago about Jiangxia facing a turnaround. He finally got it. Have you all noticed it's getting colder recently? Hearing Xia Hong's question, Everyone appeared somewhat puzzled. It's about to be February, and the cold tide of the Xing River is coming. Xi Ping was the first to react, seizing Xia Hong's words. With Xi Ping's reminder, Xia Chuan and the other four also understood. Every year in February, the Xing River enters a 2-month flood season, and during this period, the river's ice rises with the water level, its cold extending northwards, causing temperatures throughout the 5-8 mountain region to plummet. Xi Ping, it seems your role as the Five Originals Guardian hasn't been in vain. Well done. Receiving Xia Hong's praise, Xi Ping was clearly excited, bowing his hands and said, "The Lord overpraised me. As the governor of the land, I must understand all local conditions. 10 days ago, I had already notified all departments in Huayuan to prepare for the incoming cold tide." At this point, Xia Chuan also realized why Xia Hong brought up February, suddenly looking up and said, "February not only brings cold tides, but it's also when the Daju Temple bhikkhus select, and they begin collecting 6-year-old children from each village." He paused here and continued, "Could it be that the Daju Temple agreed to Jiangxia's call for peace because of this matter?" "That can't be, it's just about collecting children. They can easily send some people. It won't affect the war. But aren't you curious about what Daju Temple does with all those 6-year-old children they collect?" Upon hearing this, Xia Chuan, Yuan Dao and the other five's expression stiffened slightly, falling into silence. Since Daju Temple is associated with the deceitful monster, it's not hard to guess what they might do with those 6-year-old children. Surely it's nothing good. On this point, Xia Hong couldn't possibly be unaware. Raising this question at this moment, Xia Hong's deeper meaning was clearly suggesting, don't they want to do something about those 6-year-old children? The five hesitated for a long time, but finally, Xia Chuan took the initiative to break the silence. If anyone's going to intervene, it should be the 9 towns first. As he spoke, Yuan Dao and the other four followed up. If the 9 towns could truly unite, it wouldn't fall on us to worry about this matter. Daju Temple's growth was fostered by them, and they should naturally bear the consequences of the troubles they brought. At this critical moment, for any reason, Great Xia cannot expose itself unless it's ready to venture eastwards. Indeed, I also pity those children, but the timing isn't right. After listening to the five, Xia Hong nodded slightly and said no more. From hesitation to determination, he clearly observed their change in expressions throughout the process, understanding that hesitation signifies a remaining reverence for life. The cold-bloodedness shown by those in the 9 towns, upper echelons in this conflict with the Daju Temple, made him somewhat disheartened. Those who don't even treat the earth-digging realm as humans can hardly be expected to show any compassion to others. Chapter 1049, Chapter 371, Retreat and Ceasefire, Entrustment, Bashing's Panic, Sudden Change in the Situation Part 3. He worries that Xia Chuan, Yuan Dao, and all the high-ranking members of Great Xia will also become just like those people, as the camp continues to expand and grow stronger, and their strength increases. Fortunately, there is no such trend at the moment. Xia Hong stood up and looked towards King Hippu to the east, asking in a low voice, "How many people in the Cloud Dragon and Dragon Martial armies haven't broken through yet?" Cloud Dragon Army 386, Dragon Martial Army 375. Li Xuanling's predictions from half a month ago seemed to be correct. For everyone to break through to cold resistance level, the earliest would be April. Seeing Xia Hong frowning, Xia Chuan continued, "I've already sent a message back urging them, and also, the extra spots in the martial arts pavilion have been prioritized for the Dragon Slayer army members who haven't broken through." With ample resources, urging can't do much for cultivation matters. It still depends on personal fate, which Xia Hong fully understands. But with the need for troops imminent, besides urging, there's no other way. Try to speed them up, we'll need them very soon. Order received. Mo calendar year 132, February 4th. In the main hall of Jiangxia town, several hundred people of all ages are gathered. Everyone was looking up at the chambers behind the main hall, their expressions extremely tense, and a small number seemed to have realized something, their eyes full of tears, faces showing grief. In the chambers at the back of the main hall, Zaihu Zhang and Jiang Xinfen stood by the bedside. Both appeared haggard, clearly without sleep for days and nights, yet still kept their gaze fixed on the person on the bed, faces showing both fear and some anticipation. The person lying on the bed was Jiangxia Lord, Jiang Yinglong. Zhang Yinglong's left chest had 3 cone-shaped wounds, clearly caused by the penetration of a long spear. The wounds had stopped bleeding, but the surrounding area had turned charred, as if burned by flames. Not only his chest, but his right shoulder and forehead were each depressed, and his body had over 20 inexplicable swellings. At this moment, Zhang Yinglong was barely breathing, obviously not in a normal coma. Master, Father. Suddenly, Xia Hong and Jiang Xinfen simultaneously cried out in surprise. It turned out that Jiang Yinglong, lying on the bed, had opened his eyes. Yet even opening his eyes seemed strenuous for Jiang Yinglong. He didn't speak, looking at his apprentice and son by the bed, seeming to have made some decision, a determination flashing in his eyes, his body slightly trembling. Master, Xia Hong clearly sensed something, immediately rushing forward in alarm. Enough, don't waste damn medicine on me anymore. If there were a chance of survival, I would want to live more than you. The Xianyang level has a lifespan of 200 years. I'm already 157 this year and have lived long enough without regret. Upon hearing this, both Xia Hong and Jiang Xinfen showed simultaneous grief in their eyes. Xinfen, what conditions did Daju Temple propose for ceasing the war? Knowing his father was about to give final instructions, Jiang Xinfen ignored his sadness and quickly spoke. 3 conditions in total. First, seed 13 village-level camps around Xian Camp to them, without any manipulation of population. Second, compensate with 8,000 sets of 1,000 forged armor to be collected and delivered within 2 months. Third, under no circumstances shall we be enemies with Daju Temple in the future. The third condition includes not only Jiangxia, but also Yonk and Dragon Valley towns. Upon hearing these 3 conditions, Zhang Yinglong's face instantly deteriorated further. After coughing lightly, he spoke with sorrow. Jiangxia had 47 village-level camps in total, losing 21 and ceding 13. The territory has fallen by 3/4. I am ashamed before the former leaders and my brother. Seeing his self-reproach, Xia Hong and Jiang Xinfen hurriedly comforted him. Master, the enemy is powerful. It's not your fault. Don't blame yourself. Father, it's not your fault. Beishuo Jin Mountain, Wuchuan Chui Mountain, Bashing, it's all the fault of those 5 towns with their short-sightedness, refusing to help. Otherwise, how could Jiangxia have fallen to this state? But their comfort was clearly of little effect. Zhang Yinglong's face retained much sorrow, but realizing he didn't have much time left, he repressed his grief and turned to instruct them sternly. After the battle at Binjiang, Jiangxia will have no chance to contend with the 8 towns. When news of my death spreads in the 8 towns, your situation will become similar to that of Mayan town. Zhanger, I'll keep it brief. Bang! Zhanger, heed your master's teachings. Upon hearing the master's terms of address, Xia Hong's eyes instantly filled with tears. He knelt down before the bed with a bang, sobbing uncontrollably. Zhanger was the master's term for him in youth. Zhang Yinglong had not used it in over 70 years, yet on his deathbed he uttered it again. How could Zhanger not be moved? The request to cede 13 villages around Xian Camp shows Daju Temple's ambition. This withdrawal is but a temporary respite for Jiangxia. There will certainly be future troubles. To protect ourselves, simply allying with Yonk and Dragon Valley towns is far from enough. Go to the northern 3 towns and surrender. Father, had it not been for the 3 towns' failure to intervene, how could Jiangxia have fallen to this state? How can we surrender to the enemy? Junior brother, shut up and listen to the master. Hearing that his father wanted Jiangxia to surrender to the 3 towns, Jiang Xinfen became agitated immediately, but before he could finish, he was interrupted by Xia Hong. Looking up at his father Jiang Yinglong on the bed, his body shivered violently, and he directly bowed his head, saying nothing more. Trusted by my brother, he entrusted the camp and you both to me, yet in just 40 years I've led Jiangxia to such a declining state. After my death, I truly don't know how I'll face the former leader and my brother. Chapter 1050, Chapter 371, Retreat and Ceasefire, Entrustment, Bashing's Alarm, Sudden Turn of Events /4. Zhang Yinglong's face showed self-deprecation, his voice full of regret. He looked at Xia Hong, who was kneeling beside him, sobbing uncontrollably, and gently petted his head, speaking with guilt. Zhanger, as your master, I'm not as capable as your father and can only leave this mess in your hands. The current situation is difficult, so be careful in everything. Having lost the chance for domination, accept your fate and find a good way out for the Xiaohu family and for my Jiang family. Although you don't say it, I know that like Fanner, you also harbor resentment against the 3 towns. But now is not the time for impetuous actions. The lives of over 600,000 in the town depend solely on you. Do you understand? With hair half-white and nearing 100 years old, Zaihu Zhang heard Jiang Yinglong's last words, filled with guilt for himself and the Zaihu family. His tears flowed like a bursting dam, showing no trace of the dignity of the Jiangxia army chief. If outsiders saw this scene, they would likely be shocked. Bang, bangs, bang. Seeing Jiang Yinglong's breath becoming weaker, Zaihu Zhang restrained his grief, took 2 steps back on his knees, and suddenly kowtowed 3 times heavily on the ground. He then looked up at Jiang Yinglong on the soft bed, speaking with utmost determination. Disciple understands, master. Rest assured, disciple vows to guard Jiangxia with my life, and will surely find a good way out for our 2 clans and over 600,000 in the town. Knowing his disciple's character well, Jiang Yinglong finally relaxed upon hearing this. He then turned to his eldest son, Jiang Xinfen, with an even more intense expression of guilt, whispering, "Fanner, for over 40 years, although you don't say it, I know you've always resented me for those 5 heavenly yang fruits back then. For this matter, father owes you." At Jiang Yinglong's words, both Jiang Xinfen and Zaihu Zhang simultaneously trembled. Zaihu Zhang's face was filled with guilt, while Jiang Xinfen's expression was extremely complex. Over 60 years ago, the former lord of Jiangxia, Zaihu Zhang's father, Zaihu Ming, fought to the death against the red carp monster to open the Heng River waters. While he eventually drove out the monster, he was gravely injured and near death. At that time, Jiangxia had only 2 at the Xianyang level, with Lord Zaihu Ming near death and the then army chief Jiang Yinglong being the sole pillar. To resolve the crisis, Jiang Yinglong risked his life to gather 5 heavenly yang fruits from Mo Mountain in hopes of nurturing another Xianyang level. Back then, both Zaihu Zhang and Jiang Xinfen actually had opportunities. But Jiang Yinglong didn't ask either, and directly gave the chance to Zaihu Zhang. Jiang Xinfen, now over 90 himself, by cold resistance levels life expectancy, is half in the grave. Hearing his father bring up old matters and apologize, the last trace of resentment towards his father completely dissipated. He suddenly looked up at Jiang Yinglong, speaking in a deep voice, "Father, rest assured. I have few years left. I understand your intentions. No matter what happens henceforth, I will work wholeheartedly with my senior brother. The clan motto of our Jiang family and Zaihu family, sharing fortunes and adversity, will never change. The Zaihu family also follows this. If I go against this instruction, may my cultivation never progress, and may I be punished by 5 thunders." Good, good, good. The previous leaders Zaihu Wu and my father back then united like brothers, lifting Jiangxia from a large camp to join the ranks of the 9 towns. As long as you 2 can unite, our 2 clans can endure in the ice abyss for a long time. Good, good. Jiang Yinglong, extremely emotional, spoke louder and louder towards the end, his complexion more vibrant, until he finished the last good with breath stuck in his throat, unable to recover as his hands slackened helplessly. His eyes at the last moment were fixed on his disciple and son, with a smile of satisfaction, evidently without regrets. "Master, father," the mournful cries of Zaihu Zhang and Jiang Xinfen echoed outside the hall. Outside, several hundred people had gathered. Upon hearing the cries, they trembled abruptly, regardless of gender or age, all uniformly knelt towards the direction of the chamber. "Grandfather, grandpa, uncle, lord, great-grandfather, boo-hoo-hoo." The entire great hall was instantly filled with sobbing, a scene of lamentation, the atmosphere plunging into utter sorrow. Although Jiangxia's main hall was built at the very center of the town, within a mile radius, there was no other structure, and deployments were clearly made at this time. No one was around the main building. Otherwise, such loud cries would soon be widely known. Keep the funeral secret, continue sealing the town. Without a decree personally signed by you and me, no one is allowed to step out of the town. In the chamber of the main hall, following the grief, Zaihu Zhang stood and sat at the bedside, arranging his master's remains while ordering Jiang Xinfen. "Can it be kept secret, senior brother?" At Zaihu Zhang's words, Jiang Xinfen's voice was somewhat feeble. The 9 towns, unlike other village-level or massive camps, are interconnected. Apart from spies and scouts within each town, intermarriages among the high levels of each town are substantial. Even the descendants of the Jiang family and Zaihu family have many intermarriages with the high levels of Yonk, Dragon Valley, and Mayan 3 towns. Some are standing outside the hall at this moment. The news can be hidden for a while, but long-term concealment is impossible. I didn't intend to hide it for long, just until the 10th would be enough. Didn't Daju Temple say they would send people to take over Xiang Camp and the surrounding 13 village-level camps on the 10th? Fully cooperate with them, conceal the news from all areas, and strive to keep it hidden until then. Chapter 1051. Chapter 371. Retreat and ceasefire entrustment Bashing's panic, sudden shift in the situation /5. Upon hearing Xia Zhang's words, Jiang Xinfan's body trembled slightly. He quickly reacted and looked up at Xia Zhang, his pupils carrying a hint of shock. At this moment, Xia Zhang's eyes were filled with hatred. He growled deeply. The northern 3 towns, along with Chui Mountain and Bashing, these 5 towns, aren't they fond of watching the excitement? Now it's my Jiangxia's turn to watch their show. Even if I die, I must vent this anger for my mentor. Xiang Camp borders Bashing, and the armistice terms Jiang Xinfan discussed with Daju Temple have already stated that Jiangxia must not disclose the news of territorial cession before the 10th. He plans to cooperate with Daju Temple to have Yonk and Dragon Valley also vow not to become their enemies in the future. What Daju Temple plans to do next is actually quite clear. Listening to Xia Zhang's tone now, he clearly doesn't intend to follow his father Jiang Yinglong's desire to surrender to the northern 3 towns. Jiang Xinfan's face flashed a hint of hesitation, but when he looked up at the bed where his father had no breath left, recalling the words his father said in his last moments, his eyes gradually became resolute. He bowed to Xia Zhang. I obey the Lord's command. Mo calendar, year 132, February 10. The southeastern region on the east bank of the Hang River has a city built by the water. Its name is Bashing. Though it's said that Bashing was built by the water, it's not entirely accurate. While Bashing, like Jiangxia, is located on the east bank of the Hang River, the territory of Bashing town is significantly smaller. The reason is simple. The west side of Bashing is not far from the source of the Hang River, which is the southeast side of the Mo mountain range. Being the source location, the western territory of Bashing has been long impacted by water flows, leading to a shrinking area. Looking at the map, you'll find Bashing to the east at the Hang River's source at Mo Mountain, and the altered flow of the Hang River to the west, sandwiched between these two, forming an inverted triangle. Bashing town is built at the bottom of this inverted triangle, which is the narrowest point area. Thus, whether you say it is by the water or the mountain, it would be correct. Bashing's intention was not difficult to guess, wanting both the land resources of Mo Mountain to the east and the water resources of the Hang River to the west. Naturally, the more resources, the better. This approach of grabbing both territory and water resources suits the mentality of most camps within Ice Abyss. Bashing town is evidently quite unusual this night. During the day, large batches of cold resistance level have rushed from various places, and not long after nightfall, 2,000 fully armed defensive army stationed east in the Baisong camp unexpectedly returned to the town. Those living in the town are, of course, most sensitive to changes in atmosphere during the warm spring waters. Many watched batch after batch of cold resistance level and the army entering the town, their moods inevitably growing heavy as they made various wild guesses. What's going on here? Why did the army return out of nowhere? Are we at war with Jiangxia? Jiangxia is fighting with Daju Temple. How could it be fighting us too? I don't know. It seems the town chief has gathered many people to the Lord's Hall. Something big is definitely happening. Better stock up on beast meat and grains recently. Town chief, Jiangxia hasn't resisted at all. All village-level camps surrounding Xiang Camp have been taken over by Daju Temple. Their 90,000 troops have all moved into Xiang, and the area within 3 kilometers of the camp is under surveillance, preventing us from gathering information. Bam! Bashing main hall. Xiang Fan Yun's face turned red upon hearing this, slamming the table in front of him with a palm and roaring in anger. Jiangxia's villains, in pursuit of peace, even seeded Xiang Camp and deliberately sealed off the town, not releasing the news. Despicable, despicable, cough cough. The redness on his face was clearly abnormal, not only because of anger-induced emotional loss of control, but also coughing several times afterwards. Light blood stains appeared at the corners of his mouth, which he quickly wiped away, though still noticed by many below. Army Chief, no need to be angry. Daju Temple is merely occupying Xiang, not necessarily targeting us. The priority now is to first send the army to Zhaoyang camp as a precaution, and then inform other towns that if Daju Temple truly moves against us bashing, we'll need their assistance. Town Chief Xiang Tianlin spoke, but as soon as he finished, including Army Chief Xiang Fan Yun, everyone in the main hall immediately turned to look at him, their faces strange and faintly embarrassed. Xiang Tianlin clearly understood what their gazes meant, and he calmly said, "During the attack on Jiangxia by Daju Temple, none of the 6 towns helped. It wasn't only bashing. The temple's ambitious intentions, if indulged, will undoubtedly lead to disaster. The 8 towns should discern what's heavy and light." Xiang Fan Yun, hearing his nephew's words, lowered his brows, taking a long time before speaking deeply. "Fine, then personally go to seek aid from the 8 towns. Jiangxia's 3 towns are fighting Daju Temple like this. How can bashing alone handle it? Seeking aid is the only option, even though Xiang Tianlin's words are utterly nonsensical. For now, they have to consider trying an unlikely backup. The 3 towns must be deployed. Tianlin's plea for aid will likely fail. We still need my brother to go to the northern 3 towns. Xiang Fan Yun pondered deeply in his heart, eventually standing up directly and walking towards the back of the main hall, in the direction of the Lord's living quarters. The 8th year of Dazia, February 20, daytime. Huayuan's 15-kilometer waters, eastern region. Chapter 1052, Chapter 371, Retreat and Ceasefire and Trusting, Bashing's Panic, Sudden Shift in Situation /6. A 20-meter-long iron ship quietly drifted on the pitch-black water. Xia Hong sat alone at the bow, dressed in black and wearing a bamboo hat. He was holding a pure silver fishing rod, connected to a silver-white transparent fishing line in front, with a diameter of almost 2 centimeters. It was more like a fishing rope than a line. The thickness of the snow on his hat showed that he had maintained this posture for a long time. Another day of empty-handed fishing. After a long time, Xia Hong sighed softly, suddenly pulling up the fishing rope and frowned at the yellow-white bait ball on it. The bait ball Mu Dong research was made with mixed low to medium-level beast bones and berries. It requires a large area to attract water-cold beasts, yet lacks enough allure. Do we really have to use jade bone bait? Using jade bone for bait would be too costly. Xia Hong slightly shook his head, but considering that Great Xia had only been exploring this water zone for just over 4 months, he felt reassured. Many advanced hunting teams are coming to Huayuan, and Mu Dong is testing various baits with people daily. In time, suitable bait will be found. Even if he's empty-handed now, eventually he'll catch something. He turned to look at the Great Xia hunting team bustling busily on another iron ship about 3 or 4 kilometers to the west, chuckled softly as he put away his fishing rod and stepped onto the water surface. He pushed the ship to drift eastward for over 100 meters, found a new spot, and began fishing again. For convenient fishing and hunting, Great Xia placed a total of 3 iron ships in this 15-kilometer water area, with a 4th under construction. The one Xia Hong was on now was newly made, but some chain processes weren't finished, so it couldn't be used for fishing yet. Having nothing else to do these past 2 days, he had the craftsman department make this fishing rod to enjoy the feeling of fishing again. This fishing rod was made of 1,000 forged silver, with the fishing rope crafted from high-level Tang Jiao tendons and silver threads mixed together, bearing up to 20-hair force. In terms of equipment, Xia Hong was fully decked out. No matter which water-cold beast dared to bite, he was ready to pull it in, except if it was the Beast King. Unfortunately, 2 days of fishing yielded nothing. The bait's no good. It has nothing to do with my fishing skills. Xia Hong shook his head, flicked the fishing line and prepared to persist. Tab, tab, tab. But this time he was soon interrupted. Xia Chuan, dressed in white, came stepping on water from the shore, casting an odd glance at Xia Hong still fishing on the ship. 2 days and you haven't caught a single fish, brother. Cough, cough, you talk too much. Mu Dong's bait is just lousy. Immediately coughing lightly, Xia Hong pulled up the fishing rope, removed his hat, looked at Xia Chuan's clearly excited face, and asked, "Is there new progress in the bashing battle?" Xia Chuan had evidently come to tell him this, nodded heavily with a joyous face. Since Zhaoyang camp fell 10 days ago, last night bashing lost Qing Valley camp. Over half the area has fallen. 19 village-level camps have been lost so far, and Daju Temple's army hasn't stopped. They've sent spies to scout Jiuchu camp, which is exactly as you predicted, brother. Daju Temple truly intends to destroy Bashing Town. Half a month ago, Xia Hong predicted that Daju Temple's attack on Bashing wouldn't be like the attack on Jiangxia, but would go all the way to the town and lead to Bashing's destruction. The situation now confirmed his prediction. Bashing Town's territory is inferior to Jiangxia. There are only 40 village-level camps and just 4 major camps: Baisong, Zhouyang, Qing Valley, and Jiachu. Now that 2 have fallen, Baisong is at the eastern base of Mo Mountain, and Jiachu is north of the town, serving as the last barrier. Daju Temple's move to scout Jiachu confirms Xia Hong's prediction from half a month ago. Xia Chuan looked at Xia Hong with admiration. "Brother, you're incredible. Bashing's request for peace was futile. 10 days ago, after Zhouyang camp fell, Xiang Fan Yun personally went to negotiate peace the next day. Although the details are unknown, it seems Daju Temple ignored him." Xia Hong chuckled. The principle of without lips, teeth become cold is something Bashing doesn't understand. Jiangxia was hit so hard, and as a neighbor, Bashing refused to help but instead watched as Yonk and Dragon Valley sent troops. Jiangxia intentionally blocked the news of Xiang's session, clearly trying to harm them, leaving them in silence. With Daju Temple's series of actions, the 9 towns have completely fractured. Bashing's request for help failed, and land concession for peace didn't work. Only battling Daju Temple is left as a path. Fighting, can they win? Daju Temple has the 5 great masters, 800 bhikkhus, and with February over, the number of bhikkhus with hair is rising sharply. Bashing seemingly faces a path of destruction. Xia Chuan suddenly thought of something. Isn't there another option? Xia Hong's eyes flashed. He immediately understood. Daju Temple is controlled by deceitful monsters. The people below might not know, but the brothers Xiang Fuhai and Xiang Fan Yun and those high-ranking in Bashing Town surely do. Surrender means standing directly against the 8 towns. But it's the only way to survive, better than destruction, right? Xia Hong shook his head, didn't respond, and shifted the topic, asking, "Any new info from Mayan Town?" "Not at the moment. Murong Chui might have contacted Beishuo's people but hasn't made up his mind. Brother, you want to start from Mayan Town?" Xia Hong's eyes flashed and he said, "Not that I want to, it's the only option. The breakup of the 9 towns is a foregone conclusion, Bashing's imminent destruction, and the central south 4 towns are all fixated on the south, unaware the situation in Mayan, bordering Wuchuan, is truly dangerous. Jin Mountain and Wuchuan are eyeing it greedily. Beishuo appears to be trying to pull them in but actually wants annexation. The other 5 towns in central south are all busy with their own troubles. Murong Chui is now in a dilemma, has reached a dead end." Xia Chuan is well aware of Mayan's predicament, being in charge of intelligence in Weiyuan. Hearing his words, a gleam passed through Xia Hong's eyes, murmuring, "Who says they have no way out?" Xia Chuan immediately understood, showing excitement. "Brother means." Chapter 1053, Chapter 372, Chen Hua and Kongziu, Mayan in Chaos, Bashing and Defeat. Year 132 of the Mo calendar, the first day of March during the day. The Mayan town mansion, a courtyard near the outskirts. A middle-aged man wearing 1,000-forged iron armor knocked on the door and then let out 3 light coughs in succession. Creak. The door was opened from inside, and the middle-aged man quickly walked in, the door promptly closing behind him. The owner of the house, also a middle-aged man, was not armored and was wearing regular clothes. After closing the door, he led the visitor inside. After sitting down in the inner room, he turned to look at the iron armor on the visitor, incredulously saying, "You really infiltrated the defensive army. How is that possible?" Clang. Seeing Chen Hua's expression, Zhu Xing patted his iron armor and couldn't help but laugh proudly. "Ha ha ha, I told you it was possible, but you didn't believe me. It took us less than half a year after arriving here to infiltrate the town, proving that Mayan town has long been riddled with spies from the 3 towns. I reckon many higher-ups have been bribed by them. 2 hastily assembled defensive army units. How meticulously do you expect them to investigate? I simply registered, demonstrated some of my cultivation, and they didn't think twice, promptly letting me in." Upon hearing Zhu Xing's words, Chen Hua was stunned for a moment, then quickly shook his head, saying, "With the defensive army so careless, it's clear that the demise of Mayan town is imminent." Pausing for a moment with an incredulous look, he continued, "The defensive army is supposedly the greatest reliance of the town. Murong Chui must be aware of it, right? Are they really planning not to resist?" "Knowing doesn't help. Murong Chui is only the town chief, and the army chief position of Mayan town is vacant, with the Lord Murong Yan acting in the role. Murong Yan, along with the entire big house of the Murong family, is eager to defect to Jinshan town and considers his second granduncle an eyesore. How could they cooperate with Murong Chui to properly organize the army? Upon hearing Zhu Xing's explanation, Chen Hua's face stiffened slightly. Contemplating the internal situation of the Murong family he had learned about during his infiltration of the town over the past 2 months, and he lightly nodded, feeling invigorated. Both he and Zhu Xing hail from 5-8 Mountain, having joined Great Xia in April of the first year. Zhu Xing is the leader of East Peak Camp. He is the leader of West Peak Camp. 7 years since joining Great Xia, although both have successfully reached cold resistance level, to be honest, aside from each having an advanced hunting team, they have achieved virtually nothing in other aspects. Cold resistance level cultivation might be impressive for an individual, but viewed in the context of the present Great Xia, it amounts to very little. At most, it ensures you could become a captain of an intermediate hunting team. Beyond that, there's no room for imagination. Having been leaders before, they naturally don't want to live mediocre lives. Joining Great Xia for 7 years, yet not advancing to even a mid-level position, they inevitably felt frustrated and urgently sought opportunities for prominence. The challenge is that opportunities to distinguish oneself in Great Xia are excruciatingly scarce. Counting, you realize Xia City has 28 external outposts, of which only Huayuan, East Ridge, and Long Mountain have major outposts with subordinate government offices. Including the 9 districts of Xia City's headquarters, there are 12 major outposts and 25 minor outposts in total. By accounting the outposts, a major outpost has 8 subordinate government offices, amounting to 16 positions, while a minor outpost has only the chief and deputy defense envoys, meaning altogether, there are just 242 outpost positions. Of course, this doesn't mean Great Xia has only 242 positions. There are also directors and staff of 8 departments, along with the commanders and colonels of the military department, city gate commanders. But even counting these, there are fewer than 400 positions available for entry-level status in Great Xia at present. Yet Great Xia's cold resistance level cultivators have already exceeded 6,000. With too many monks and too little gruel, earning an entry-level status is no simple task. Moreover, becoming entry-level is merely the first step to distinction, with later stages involving more challenging endeavors such as gaining titles and founding clans, currently the ultimate goal for the Xia people. There are only so many total positions. Whenever one opens up, everyone scrambles for it. He and Kang Xiu reached cold resistance level in the 3rd year of De Xia, not possessing particularly strong abilities nor unique advantages, thus naturally remaining unnoticed. But reflecting on others' situations, it's eventually not that hard to swallow. Even Xiao Kengcheng, who joined Great Xia at the same time as them, only managed to become Zhejiang Guard Commander last year by leveraging Xi Ping's promotion to 5 Originals Guardian. Not to mention Xiao Kengcheng's family ties with Xia Chuan, he broke through to cold resistance level in the 2nd year of De Xia, a year earlier than them, and made significant contributions in the conquest of Longyu, becoming one of the first to be conferred the title of 9th-rank Xuanling Marquis. Even Xiao Kengcheng endured for 5 years to become a 6th-rank guard commander, without any foundation and average talent. Climbing to higher levels is as hard as reaching for the sky for them. Both feeling similarly unaccomplished, last October, upon learning that Minister Xia Chuan intended to send people to infiltrate the 9 towns to gather intelligence, they promptly volunteered without a second thought. Interestingly, many applied for the task back then, with numerous possessing greater strength. They were chosen precisely because they were older and moderately strong. For infiltration, one naturally shouldn't attract much attention. Middle-aged, ordinary cold resistance cultivators like them, lacking battle body talent and with average strength, were indeed the most suitable candidates. In early October, they, along with 30 other cold resistance level spies, traveled through the cold Jade secret tunnel to East Ridge. According to Liu Yang's arrangement, each town had 4 spies, 2 responsible for gathering intelligence and 2 for relaying information back to East Ridge. He and Kang Xiu happened to be responsible for gathering intelligence on the Mayan town side. Chapter 1054, Chapter 372, Chen Hua and Kang Xiu Mayan in Chaos, Bashing's Defeat 2. When they first arrived, They were extremely cautious and directly infiltrated a not-so-strong village-level camp, intending to slowly gather information about Mayan. But they had stayed at that camp for less than 2 months when the town started recruiting cold resistance level and earth-digging realm limit individuals from each village. They weren't sure of the exact reason, but it was such a rare opportunity that they didn't want to miss out, so they accepted the recruitment and entered the town. Now they've been in the town for more than 2 months, not only having understood the reason for that recruitment, but also having gathered a large amount of intelligence about the town. Murong Yan is now practically being led by the nose by his wife Shangyu and Hong. The recruitment 2 months ago was likely her idea, bringing all the cold resistance level and earth-digging realm limit individuals from village-level camps into the town. On the surface, it was to increase the town's strength and fortify the defenses, but secretly it was to strengthen the power of the main branch of the Murong family, the Coal Lord's line, to compete with the second branch. Upon hearing Kang Xiu's words, Chen Hua laughed and said that Murong Chui is overly indecisive. His second branch clearly has the power to take the lordship from Murong Yan, yet he cherishes his feathers, always deferring to this grandson. Now it's gotten out of hand, difficult to fix, and I bet this Mayan town will end up benefiting Jinshan Town. The Murong family has only 2 branches. The main branch is led by the former Lord Murong Ding. This branch has few people, with Murong Ding's 3 sons not living past 50, leaving only a dozen or so grandchildren. The most talented among them is Murong Yan, the current lord of Mayan Town. The second branch is led by the town chief Murong Chui. Compared to his brother Murong Ding's branch, the second branch is much more populated, with Murong Chui having 5 offspring all alive and over 30 in the grandchildren's line. Murong Chui and Murong Ding, the brothers, had a great relationship. While Murong Ding was lord, the 2 brothers reigned, and there was basically no conflict between the branches. But ever since Murong Ding's death 4 years ago, with the lordship falling to his grandson Murong Yan, the conflict between the branches could no longer be suppressed. According to the long-standing tacit rules of the 9 towns, the positions of army chief and town chief could be held by cold resistance level individuals, but the lordship required a Xianyang level expert. It's unclear how Murong Ding arranged it when he passed away, not transferring the lordship to Murong Chui, but rather skipping a generation to his grandson Murong Yan. Murong Chui had no objections, but the juniors in the second branch were in an uproar. The main branch was already sparse in numbers, and with not even 1 Xianyang level, Murong Yan, apart from the title of lord, fell short of any real benefits. The town's actual power was fundamentally controlled by his uncle Murong Chui. How could he be content? Originally, no matter how discontent, Murong Yan had no way out. After all, Murong Chui was the town's only Xianyang level. It was fortunate enough for him to become lord, so what else could he do? But 3 years ago, Jinshan Town's town chief Shangyuan Yan suddenly came knocking with a marriage contract personally signed by Murong Ding before his death. The contract recorded 2 names, Murong Yan and his granddaughter Shangyuan Hong. Coming with a marriage contract at this time, and aiming to ally with the lord, an old man like Murong Chui could clearly see Jinshan Town's sinister intentions. He repeatedly refused, even at the risk of offending Shangyuan Yan, preferring to offer compensation in gold and silver to cancel the marriage contract. But Murong Yan agreed. With the parties involved consenting, what could granduncle Murong Chui say? And so, 3 years ago, Shangyuan Hong successfully married into Mayan Town. This became the origin of all conflicts. With Shangyuan Hong as the lord lady, Jinshan Town began to recklessly insert people into Mayan Town, openly placing 200 to 300 cold resistance level individuals, with no telling how many secretly. Meanwhile, with his father-in-law and the entire Jinshan Town as his backing and his wife offering strategies, Murong Yan began attempting to reclaim his lordship powers, starting to challenge his granduncle Murong Chui. Chen Hua and Kang Xiu had been in the town for over 2 months, thus grasping quite an understanding. At first, Jinshan Town acted moderately, inserting people secretly, a group of 3 to 5 at a time. But it became increasingly excessive, with a batch of over 30 cold resistance level individuals sent just 3 days ago. They made the reason seamless, supposedly forming a personal guard for the Lord, grandiosely claiming they were recruited from outside, using the summoning of cold resistance level individuals from villages as a cover. Who doesn't know they're all from Jinshan Town? The entire Mayan town only has slightly over 3,000 cold resistance level individuals, and publicly Jinshan Town has placed over 500, with the number secretly inserted unknown. If Murong Chui had tried to manage the situation from the start, it wouldn't matter as much, though it would take more effort. But now it's probably too late. Of the over 3,000 cold resistance level in town, at least a third are loyal to Murong Yan, and with Jinshan Town's people, both sides are essentially balanced in power. Additionally, with Jinshan Town watching closely, even if Murong Chui wants to intervene now, he can't anymore. Hearing Kang Xiu's words, Chen Hua frowned, responding, "In recent times, the town's defenses have been far too lax. Even we, who are not from the 9 towns, could easily slip in, let alone those from the 9 towns. Not to mention the rest of the 5 towns in the central south, Beishuo and Wuchuan surely have people who have sneaked in." Kang Xiu's expression froze momentarily at these words, and after a brief reflection, a serious look immediately appeared on his face as he nodded and said, "Certainly." The first to want to act against Mayan was Wuchuan Town, and it was only after the other 7 towns exerted pressure that Wuchuan finally gave up. Chapter 1055, Chapter 372, Chen Hua and Kang Xiu, Mayan's Chaotic Troubles, Bashing's Route Part 3. Now Jin Mountain wants to annex Mayan. Bashing can barely protect itself, and the vitality of Jiangxia is greatly damaged. The other 3 towns in the central south are guarding against Daju Temple, so it is estimated that they have neither the intention nor the energy to manage this side. But Beishuo and Wuchuan are different. They have strength, and fear Jin Mountain growing too big definitely won't sit idly by. So it seems all northern 3 towns are focusing on Mayan now, should this information be sent back tonight. Of course. The 2 deliberated for a while, integrating all the information they've gathered over the past 2 days, and waited quietly for the night to come. Great Xia placed 4 clandestine agents in each of the 8 town cities, with 2 specifically responsible for gathering, and the other 2 for transmitting. The ones responsible for transmitting, 1 south and 1 north, link the entire 8 towns in a straight line, summarize information through Luoyang at East Ridge, and finally pass it to Xia City. The method of contact was set before departing from East Ridge last year. Unless special circumstances occur, even days are for receiving southward information, and odd days for sending northward. The specific way of connecting is to meet once at the agreed location during the first hour after nightfall, thus ensuring the information is delivered to Xia City at the first opportunity. Today is the first day, precisely the day for sending information northward. Kang Xiu has already infiltrated the defensive army, and naturally cannot leave the town casually. Thus, after nightfall, Chen Hua immediately armed himself with weapons and a bow, pretending to go hunting, and left the town. Leaving the town, heading east towards Mo Mountain, walking 3 to 5 kilometers, ensuring no one was following. Chen Hua then changed course, speeding northwest, covering over 20 kilometers quickly until he reached the agreed meeting spot. The meeting time is the first hour after nightfall. If an hour hasn't passed, it means the other party couldn't come, and he needn't wait, coming next time instead. There have been many such special situations in the past, so Chen Hua was very patient, sitting beside a large tree, slowly watching the time pass. But today he didn't wait long. 10 minutes later, someone arrived from the north. As he looked north, his expression changed instantly, jumping onto the large tree to hide swiftly. Because more than one person came from the north, there were over 20 of them. Zhang Qing got caught. How come so many people? Mayan is responsible for transmitting information, specifically Zhang Fan and Zhang Qing, with the north one being Zhang Qing. The 2 have cooperated for half a year, very familiar with each other. Previously, connections were always one-on-one. With so many people suddenly appearing, Chen Hua naturally became vigilant, thinking Zhang Qing might have been caught. If he got caught, it would be a major problem. Chen Hua's face became much more somber, initially planning to flee but gritting his teeth. He stayed, slowly drawing out the big saber from his back, trying to spot Zhang Qing among the 20. Fortunately, Zhang Qing was there. Not only that, he was leading, apparently giving directions to the 20 behind him, constantly pointing to his location. Traitor! Chen Hua cursed these 2 words in his heart, observing Zhang Qing's approach with intense killing intent. But quickly, seeing the appearance of several people behind Zhang Qing, his killing intent vanished instantly, replaced by astonishment and joy. He swiftly returned the big saber to its sheath, then, without hesitation, jumped from the tree and rushed toward Zhang Qing and the others. Subordinate Chen Hua, pays respect to the director. Among the 20 behind Zheng Qing, the leader was none other than Director Yuan Dao, and Chen Hua happened to know the two behind Yuan Dao, the vice commander of Dragon Martial Army Hu Quan, and Dragon Martial Army Reconnaissance Camp Colonel Yuan Yang. Yuan Dao and the 19 behind him, though dressed in casual clothes, carried large packs, which by their shapes were easily discernible as war armor. Dragon Martial Army taking action. In Chen Hua's mind, countless thoughts flashed instantly, but ultimately he could only reach this conclusion, still filled with confusion. No need for such formalities, Chen Hua. I've heard you've infiltrated Mayan Town. Well done. What's the current situation in Mayan Town, tell me? Yuan Dao's compliment was not without reason. He had seen Chen Hua from afar, including all his subsequent changes in expression. He could immediately guess Chen Hua's thoughts, hence offering this positive evaluation. Yet, his temperament being naturally cold, being able to say these 4 words was quite a feat, and he directly started asking about military affairs afterward. Chen Hua's slightly excited reaction, upon hearing the compliment, indicated the difficulty of receiving praise from Yuan Dao. Chen Hua quickly recounted the latest in Mayan Town, naturally highlighting the Murong family's internal conflicts and Kang Xiu's recent infiltration into the defensive army. Though Yuan Dao had little reaction to the Murong family's internal strife, given prior intelligence, upon hearing Chen Hua mention many with cold resistance level infiltrating Mayan Town daily and partner Kang Xiu becoming a defensive army member, his face revealed a deep joy. Recently infiltrating cold resistance level, mainly from Jinshan Town, with many also from Beishuo and Wuchuan, while the nearby Dragon Valley, Yonk, and Chui Mountain 3 towns remain unclear. Overall, the current town is roughly divided into 2 factions, one led by Lord Murong Yan backed by Jinshan Town, the other led by Town Chief Murong Chui, both holding equal numbers of cold resistance level. Murong Chui hasn't surrendered to Beishuo yet. Chapter 1056, Chapter 372, Chen Hua and Kang Xiu, Mayan in Turmoil, Bashing's Crushing Defeat, Part 4. After listening to Chen Hua, Yuan Dao immediately had this thought. Chen Hua had limited intelligence from her inquiries in Mayan, so what she knew was actually less than what he already knew in Xia City. Beishuo had already extended an olive branch to Murong Chui. If Murong Chui leaned towards Beishuo, the town's situation wouldn't be like it is now. Hu Quan returned to East Ridge at once, arranged for the soldiers to come in batches, not many, 20 at a time. Yuan Yang, stay with Zheng Qing and focus on the response. Tonight, I'll go with Chen Hua to Mayan Town to investigate the situation, if the town's defenses really are this lax. Upon hearing this, Chen Hua suddenly looked up, her eyes filled with shock. Moving soldiers in batches, 20 at a time. Yuan Dao's intentions were clear. He planned to sneak the Dragon Martial Army into the town. The Great Xia is planning to make its move on Mayan Town too. 20 people per day, for the entire Dragon Martial Army to get here, it will take at least 50 days. A small number haven't broken through, but over these last 50 days, they should manage to, bit by bit, if we can secretly infiltrate the town without detection. Yuan Dao pondered for a moment, recalling the orders Xia Hong personally gave him before this mission, and a determined look flashed in his eyes. Chen Hua, first take me to the town for a look. Yes, sir. Chen Hua, feeling equally excited, immediately led Yuan Dao towards the southeastern side of Mayan Town. Gentlemen, I must take my leave. Seeing Yuan Dao leave, Hu Quan also turned and headed back toward East Ridge. Zheng Qing then clasped his hands towards Yuan Yang and the others, saying, Gentlemen, the director shouldn't return so soon. Why not come with me to Yumen Village for a brief rest? Having been there for half a year, he naturally had a fixed hiding place. Yumen Village was not strong, even he could hide there, let alone the 18 Dragon Martial Army soldiers with Yuan Yang. All right. Yuan Yang agreed with a clasp of his hands, and led the 18 soldiers to follow him northwards towards Yumen Village. In the year 132 of the Mo calendar, March 20th, past midnight. At Bashing Town, a flood of people was surging towards the city gate. Everyone was racing frantically towards the gate, fearing the slightest delay. Everyone get out of the way, move out of my way. Stop pushing, stop crowding, everyone stop. Juke has fallen, the enemy is about to attack, let me into the town, quick. Stop, everyone stop. Calm down, everyone calm down, the enemy hasn't caught up, don't panic. The Despite the many soldiers and generals shouting loudly from above the walls and on both sides, trying to maintain order, the crowd outside the gate was simply too massive, estimated to be at least over 100,000, and the soldiers around the city gate were utterly ineffective. "Town chief, it's no use. We can't block them, we simply ca. This is planned by Daju Temple to force people here. There must be many enemy spies among them. Allowing them into the town will cause endless trouble. Close the city gate. We have to close the gate. Town chief, give the order." "Close the gate? How could I? The defeated soldiers of Jiachu camp are all here. They are all in the earth-digging realm. If I close the gate, should I just let them all die at dawn?" Screamed Xiang Tianlin, the town chief of Bashing, with a face full of panic, unlike the calm demeanor he held in the main hall last month, as he watched the routed soldiers streaming into the gate, responding angrily to those around him asking to close the gate. Bashing suffered a humiliating defeat. On February 14th, he had gone to the 8 towns for aid and hadn't returned yet when Jiachu camp was breached by Daju Temple. Daju Temple harbors wild ambitions. Indulging them will only lead to disaster. Realization of what's more important and less important surely must be clear to the 8 towns. Recalling the words he said before everyone in the main hall, addressed to his uncle Xiang Fan Yun on the 10th of last month, Xiang Tianlin now only wanted to give himself a few hard slaps. He had gone seeking aid from the 8 towns, Jiangxia, Yonk, Dragon Valley, unmet even at the gate. Chui Mountain, Mayan both directly refused. The northern 3 towns, despite some courteous gestures, became evasive and dodged the issue whenever aid was mentioned. When Jiangxia was attacked by Daju Temple, at least Yonk and Dragon Valley helped, but Bashing couldn't get aid from a single town, leaving it in a worse state than they had been. On February 23rd, after the fall of Qing Valley Camp, his uncle Xiang Fan Yun went and negotiate peace with Daju Temple the very next day, first offering to cede Baisong Camp but was rejected, then proposing to cede Jiachu Camp as well, along with various natural resources and populations, yet Daju Temple still refused. The moment Xiang Fan Yun brought back this news, everyone realized that Daju Temple truly intended to annihilate Bashing. At that moment, no one in Bashing town held onto any hope. Xiang Tianlin personally took charge, assembling all earth-digging realm individuals from the remaining 21 village-level camps, and gathered 80,000 from the town, totaling 160,000 earth-digging, plus Bashing's 9,000 defensive army troops, concentrating them at Jiachu camp for a final battle against Daju Temple. Facing impending doom, the 17,000-strong army united, exhibiting remarkable resolve. From the first offensive launched by Daju Temple on the 25th of last month, Bashing miraculously withstood 7 waves. At the end of the 7th offense, on March 12th, as Daju Temple withdrew to Qing Valley Camp, Bashing had lost over half of its 8,000 defensive army, and of the 160,000 earth-digging, only about 100,000 remained. Chapter 1057, Chapter 372, Chen Hua and Kong Xiu, Mayan's Chaotic Aspect, Bashing's Defeat Part 5. Of course, the losses at Daju Temple were not low either, with 300 official bhikkhus remaining only half. Of the 6,000 Zen temple bhikkhus before the battle, less than 2,000 remain. The number of earth-digging realm is even fewer than Bashing, only more than 90,000. In the preceding 17 days, Daju Temple almost launched an attack every other day, at most not exceeding 2 days. Since Daju Temple has chosen to withdraw, it should be an abandonment. At that time, including Xiang Tianlin among a group of high-ranking members, all felt Bashing had held its ground, with Daju Temple suffering such heavy losses that it could not possibly continue attacking. Who knew they were incredibly wrong? Yesterday, March 19th, Daju Temple unexpectedly transferred 5,000 Zen temple bhikkhus and 200 official bhikkhus from the rear, setting out from Qing Valley Camp in the middle of the night, then launching another fierce attack on Jiachu Camp during the day. The Bashing army, which had withstood the previous 7 rounds of attacks, relied on sheer determination, a fierce resolve of survival, and by the 7th round, when Daju Temple withdrew back to Qing Valley Camp, it must be said that this momentum had already dissipated. After all, everyone thought they had already won. This battle need not be fought any further. Who would have thought Daju Temple returned after just 7 days? Moreover, they came with even stronger forces. Bashing's disastrous defeat seemingly began the moment Daju Temple withdrew. At this point, everyone realized that 7 days ago, Daju Temple was not incapable of further attacking, but feigned withdrawal to lull them. Fortunately, Lord Xiang Fuhai and Army Chief Xiang Fan Yun led a group of high-ranking members and 4,000 defensive army troops in a desperate defense, preventing Daju Temple's army from attacking Jiuchu camp during the day. Otherwise, not only Jiuchu would fall, but probably all earth-digging realm of Bashing would perish. And the trouble before their eyes now was caused by that time. When the Lord led the generals to drag the battle into the night, Bashing's losses were beyond count, with only slightly over 2,000 defensive army troops left, more than 1,000 cold resistance-level troops, and even with the 10,000 earth-digging realm added, there was no strength left to fight. So when night fell, Lord Xiang Fuhai directly led the retreat, while instructing Jiuchu camp's earth-digging realm to withdraw, directing them towards the town. Thus came the scene before their eyes at this moment. These cold resistance-level troops run fast and can quickly return to the town, but the earth-digging realm is not the same. Their numbers are large, their pace is slow, and with Daju Temple's enemy forces pursuing from the rear, they only manage to make it back now. Normally, with 10,000 earth-digging realm fleeing back, due to different routes, cultivation differences, and varying familiarity with the terrain, they should arrive at different times. Yet the people fleeing back now are gathered together, arriving simultaneously. What does this mean? Someone drove them from all around, deliberately creating this large-scale simultaneous entry into the city. No need to think, it was Daju Temple's doing. All for creating chaos, allowing their people to blend into the city. They are planning to attack Bashing City, yet the 8 towns remain indifferent. Xiang Tianlin gritted his teeth at this moment, looking northward, in the direction of the 8 towns. Let them all into the city, it's almost dawn. No matter what, the vast majority inside are Bashing residents, give them a chance to live. Suddenly, a voice resonated from midair, making Xiang Tianlin and others look up immediately, seeing the golden figure in the air, bending down in respect. Greetings to the Lord. Xiang Fuhai and Xiang Fan Yun are brothers, hence they look alike, but his hair is gray, his face is full of wrinkles, and he is clearly much older than Xiang Fuhai. The key is that at this moment, his body still bears fresh bloodstains, unmistakably from the battle with Daju Temple's 2 masters during the day. Whether it was Xiang Tianlin and other Bashing high-ranking members on the city wall, or the tens of thousands pushing into the city below the gate, none were unmoved by the sight. The crowded scene at the city gate suddenly came to a halt, and after a long time, it was unknown who first saluted the sky and solemnly spoke. If it weren't for the Lord and others fighting with their lives during the day, we wouldn't have the chance to survive tonight. I returned to Bashing tonight only to defend the city. The Lord's great kindness and virtue shall not be forgotten by us all our lives. Yes, brothers, stop crowding. We are not here to flee. Daju Temple will attack again. We enter to defend the city. If Daju Temple dares to attack, I will fight to the death. I am a Bashing person. Bashing City cannot be lost. What is this chaos? Brothers, enter one by one. We cannot let those Daju Temple scoundrels laugh at us. The originally chaotic scene at the city gate unexpectedly changed directly because of Xiang Fuhai's words, and as more and more people began expressing themselves, those entering the city not only became orderly, but the gloom caused by the retreat also instantly lifted considerably. Everyone knew clearly in their hearts, there is another fierce battle waiting for them behind. Daju Temple, this time they have come to annihilate Bashing. Chapter 1058, Chapter 373, Mayan's Last Stand, Only We Can Help You, King Wang Elixir Pills, Battle of Bashing. Mo calendar year 132, April 5, daytime. Mayan City, an eastern side hall. An elder with half-white hair was sitting at the head of the hall, continuously rubbing his forehead. From his furrowed eyebrows, restless expression, and the constant motion of rubbing his forehead, it was clear that his mind was extremely anxious. He was not alone in the hall. At least 10 other people were seated below, 3 of whom looked even older than him, while the rest were mostly middle-aged. In the earth-digging realm, 32 village-level camps, all cold resistance level and earth-digging realm limit have been summoned into the city. In less than 4 months, the town city cold resistance level increased from just over 3,000 to over 5,000. Do village-level camps have so many cold resistance levels? Jin Mountain is clearly taking us for fools. That personal guard already has more than 800 people, with at least 70% from Jinshan Town. Shangyu Hong has now sealed off the area around the main hall, and our people can't get in there. We can't even see the Lord when approaching for matters. Not only that personal guard, but the newly added 2 defensive armies also have over 400 cold resistance levels, and the rest are all earth-digging realm limits. Surely, a lot of Jinshan Town people mixed in there. It's not just Jinshan. There must be people from Beishuo and Wuchuan mixed in too. This is just on the surface. Who knows how many more in secret? The town city is already full of holes. It will be too late if we don't rectify it soon. It's all the work of that demoness from Jinshan Town. Town chief, don't hesitate anymore. If we let her continue wreaking havoc, Mayan will be completely doomed soon. Upon hearing the words from below, Murong Chui furrowed his eyebrows even tighter, turning his head to look towards the west side's main building, his vision filled with conflict and struggle. Father, we can't let the Lord act recklessly like this anymore. Suddenly, the closest elder with white hair spoke up from below. Once the elder spoke, everyone else immediately stopped talking, turning their attention to him. Yaner wanting to pledge allegiance to Jin Mountain isn't a big problem as long as it's not Wuchuan, but the town city still has its foundation, and Jinshan Town hasn't made any public statements. Just throwing oneself at them and begging is too humiliating for Mayan, even if we're weak. The crowd, upon hearing these words, all nodded heavily, their faces filled with indignation. As Murong Ping said, as long as they don't pledge allegiance to Wuchuan, no matter which side Lord Murong Yan wants to join, they wouldn't have any issue. What made them angry was never Murong Yan's intent to pledge allegiance. Despite their unwillingness, they all understood that since Lord Murong Ding passed away 4 years ago, Mayan Town had declined, unable to sustain its former status. 3 years ago, Wuchuan invaded 23 village-level camps, and eventually, under pressure from the joint forces of 7 towns, Wuchuan returned 12. However, without new Xianyang levels appearing, it couldn't stop Mayan's decline. Wuchuan's persistent aggression made it no shame to seek support from Jin Mountain or Beishuo in reality, as it was necessary. But Murong Yan's series of actions were indeed somewhat rushed. Clearly, they also understood why Murong Yan did this. Murong Yan's suspicion of Murong Chui worsened as soon as he succeeded as the Lord, aware that most people on Murong Chui's side were unwilling to pledge allegiance to 3 towns, with a few inclined towards Beishuo. So with the marriage agreement 3 years ago, he directly leaned towards Jin Mountain, borrowing the support of Jinshan Town to fight Murong Chui for Town City's voice. 3 years ago, our Mayan's foundation was intact, with Central and South 5 towns' support. We feared no 3 towns. But this foolish Murong Yan hastily invited wolves into the house, turning against our own, causing Town City's morale to collapse. Everyone was on edge. Now Daju Temple is approaching aggressively. In the Battle of Binjiang, Jiang Yinglong perished, and Jiangxia struggles to survive, likely to fall. Yonk and Dragon Valley are also severely weakened. Bashing now is barely sustaining itself. The 5 towns can't help us anymore. Now pledging allegiance may not be as simple as 3 years ago, when we could just bow and scrape before others. With the northern 3 towns' nature, they wouldn't rest until they've consumed all of Mayan. As the town faces impending crisis, I reckon Murong Yan is still in the main hall, dreaming his lordly dreams. Bah, fool, fool. Murong Chui's second son, Murong Yan, fiery as his name suggests, had an extreme disdain for Murong Yan. His words never treated him as the Lord. Finishing his remarks, he continued to curse him several times. Bam! Murong Chui furiously shattered the table, directly interrupting Murong Yan, standing up and pointing at his 5 sons, angering. He's a fool, but you're not much better. In 4 years, if any one of you 5 could break through, I wouldn't be struggling alone and Mayan wouldn't be in this predicament. The Murong Ping brothers heard this and immediately hung their heads in shame. Unlike them, the other people in the hall showed a slightly darker expression. As outsiders looking in, they could hear from Murong Chui's words that he was still striving to uphold Murong Yan's lordly authority, which was exactly the town city's biggest issue at present, or rather the biggest problem facing Murong Chui's faction. Due to the 3 years of internal division into 2 camps, fierce internal battles, Town City's morale had long been fragmented, possibly irreparable. If Murong Chui could make up his mind to reform, there might still be some hope. But he clung stubbornly to his loyalty, unwilling to tear his relationship with his grandson Murong Yan. Chapter 1059, Chapter 373, Mayan's Dead End, Only We Can Help You, King Wang Elixir Pills, Battle of Bashing, Part 2. As die-hard supporters of Murong Chui, they naturally tried persuading him countless times, but Murong Chui remained indifferent. Even at this critical juncture, Murong Chui was still defending Murong Yan, leaving them somewhat disheartened. Zhang Hai pays respects to the town chief. Just as the entire room fell silent, someone suddenly rushed in from outside the hall. Zhang Hai entered first to salute Murong Chui, then glanced around to confirm that everyone present was on his side, and immediately faced upwards to speak. Town chief, Bashing still hasn't started fighting, but according to the scouts below reporting, Daju Temple's side is continuously increasing their troops. All village-level camps within their territory in the earth-digging realm have been recruited. Bashing has kept the city gates tightly shut for half a month, refusing to take the initiative in anything. It seems they are determined to defend the town. Upon hearing this, everyone inside the hall immediately appeared sullen. Mayan's only hope to avoid being annexed by the northern 3 towns is to gain the joint support of the central south 4 towns. Yet how easy is it to gain their support? While the battle at Bashing is still undecided, if Daju Temple truly annihilates Bashing, their next target will undoubtedly be the central south 4 towns. Should they support Mayan at this time, they will offend the northern 3 towns, and when Daju Temple comes knocking, no one will help them. Conversely, if Bashing can withstand Daju Temple, letting the 4 towns realize that Daju Temple isn't as frightening, they won't fear offending the northern 3 towns, then Mayan Town could certainly usher in a turnaround. In summary, their fate hinges on the outcome of the battle at Bashing. Either Bashing falls, and they honestly surrender to Beishuo, or Bashing holds out, and they seek aid or form an alliance with the 4 towns. The worst scenario is this current stalemate without a fight. With Murong Yan and Shangyu and Han cooperating, Jin Mountain's infiltration into Mayan has been deepening continuously, and the longer the delay, the more unfavorable it becomes for them. Why not seek Beishuo? Murong Ping finally couldn't help but speak, but only got halfway through. Because at this time, another person burst in from outside the hall. A young girl, roughly 18 or 19 years old, wearing red. With a touch of naivete on her face, the girl's expression seemed pure, and her bold intrusion into the hall was taken without regard. Despite being watched by dozens of people, she appeared completely unfazed and directly bowed to Murong Chui at the top. Yanner pays respects to grandfather, father, uncles, and cousins. Today Yanner wants to introduce you all to a gifted talent. Upon seeing Murong Yan enter, everyone in the hall, including Murong Chui, suddenly relaxed, expressions softening. The Murong family had 2 branches. If the 18-year-old who broke through the cold resistance level, Murong Yan, was the face of the first branch, then the young girl standing in the center of the hall, Murong Yan, was the face of the second branch. Murong Yan's talent, compared not only to Murong Yan, was notable throughout the 9 towns. At 17, she broke through cold resistance level using her superior battle body, upon breaking through immediately possessing power greater than the 4 talented, surpassing both brothers Murong Chui and Murong Ding in their youth. When Murong Yan was born 19 years ago, Murong Chui was already 108 years old, considered a late adoring grandson, and was moreover the child of his beloved youngest son Murong Yuan, so Murong Chui cherished her greatly from youth, and with her showing astounding talent, things only became even more extraordinary. Especially 2 years ago, when Murong Yan broke through the cold resistance level with superior battle body talent, realizing she might become the Murong family's 3rd Xianyang level after him, Murong Chui indulged her enormously, catering to her virtually every whim. With her grandfather's affection, Murong Yan naturally acted without reservation in the town. Whatever she wanted to do, she did, like barging into the hall at the moment, something nobody else dared do unless something urgent compelled them, lacking the courage to otherwise. Murong Yan not only dared, but even raised no temperament among everyone. After all, Murong Chui at the top was full of smiles. Who among them dared object? Of course, some still dared speak. Murong Yuan heard his daughter say she wanted to introduce a talented individual to her grandfather and immediately shook his head, scolding softly. Young girls ought to behave properly. Can't you see your grandfather is discussing important matters with us? Go play with others. Being scolded by her father in front of so many people, Murong Yan instantly became indignant, saying to her father, "Dad, don't underestimate people. The talented individual I'm referring to might not be weaker than you. So Yanner, tell us, where did this talent you're introducing to your grandfather come from? What made you think of introducing them to him?" Murong Yuan, after hearing, just shook his head and was about to continue speaking. But his father Murong Chui above interrupted, about to pull his daughter away, stopped by his fourth brother Murong Ying. His expression turned slightly perplexed. Seeing his fourth brother Murong Ying pointing outside the hall, he hurriedly looked out, concentrating for a moment. His expression suddenly changed. Cold resistance level sensing ability can roughly cover about 200 meters. Standing outside the hall, how many people there were, they were crystal clear. Just now there were evidently only 20 guards, but now one more appeared. Moreover, he couldn't perceive that person's aura. So the daughter's statement about strength perhaps not being weaker than his was true. Murong Yuan's mind swiftly raced with countless thoughts, his gaze becoming gloomier, focusing intently. Meanwhile, Murong Yan was still cheerfully answering grandfather's question. Grandfather, was Brother Yan organizing a very powerful Imperial Guard? Yanner recently, having nothing to do, wanted to check out that Imperial Guard situation, didn't expect to witness something amusing. Commander of the Imperial Guard Shangyuan Qing, Deputy Commander Shangyuan Xing were both reprimanded by a minor soldier, 1 against 2. Shangyuan Xing even lost an arm, causing the lady to become enraged, now sending that Imperial Guard all over the city searching for them. Chapter 1060, Chapter 373, Mayan's Desperate Path, Only We Can Help You, King Wang Elixir Pills, The Battle of Bashing 3. From these words, you can tell that although Murong Yan is innocent, she is by no means ignorant of the current situation of the town and the Murong family. After listening to these words, everyone in the hall had their expressions slightly changed. Especially Murong Chui at the top. He immediately raised his head and gazed outside the hall, obviously sizing up the person outside. Shangyuan Qing and Shangyuan Xing, just from these names, you can tell the composition of the personal guard Murong Yan recently assembled. Jinshan Town is well aware that Murong Chui dare not make any moves right now, which is why they are bold enough to blatantly send people over. They injured 2 people, even severing Shangyuan Xing's arm. This person definitely isn't from Jinshan Town. But what is the spy from Beishua Wuchuan doing by being so high profile now? Murong Chui and everyone inside frowned. Interesting, Yanner, call that person in and let's have a look. Murong Yan nodded immediately after hearing her grandfather's words, turned around, and shouted loudly to the outside of the hall, "Brother Yuan, come in." Yuan must be an alias. Murong Chui and everyone inside furrowed their brows slightly, looking towards the outside. Soon, a young man in black with a sharp countenance walked slowly from outside the hall, carrying a gigantic broadsword, smiling gently, and showing no nervousness in the face of everyone inside, even when locking eyes with Murong Chui at the top. So young. Is he even 30? Although everyone didn't voice these thoughts, when they saw the young man's appearance, the astonishment in their eyes was unequivocal. Even Murong Chui was no exception. Definitely not over 30 late-stage cold resistance, 32 main strength, talent even stronger than Yanner. Impossible for the 3 towns to send such a genius as a spy. Not from the 3 towns, possibly not even from the 9 towns. Murong Chui, with Xianyang level cultivation, saw more than others. At the moment he discerned the cultivation and age of the man in black, a lot of things immediately came to his mind. Yuan Dao, paying respect to Town Chief Murong and greeting all the lords. The young man in black was naturally Yuan Dao. He first bowed to Murong Chui at the top, then turned to salute everyone in the hall while discreetly sizing up all 16 people inside. Yanner truly brought me a great talent. I must thank you properly, but another day. Let grandfather and the uncles chat with this talent first. You go play elsewhere for a while, all right. Murong Yan probably deduced something, nodded sensibly after listening, said nothing, and turned to walk outside. It's been a long time since I've seen such an excellent talent. May I ask, young brother Yuan, where do you come from? What are your intentions approaching my granddaughter? Murong Chui, after a slight compliment, wasted no words and directly asked about Yuan Dao's background and intentions. The gazes of everyone in the hall immediately focused on him, their expressions unconcealedly unfriendly, waiting for him to answer. This reaction was unexpected for Yuan Dao, but he quickly realized Murong Chui perceived him not to be one of the 9 towns. He chose to waste no more time, raised his eyes to meet Murong Chui's gaze, and cupped his hands with a smile. I apologize in advance to Town Chief Murong. My approach to your granddaughter was purely accidental without any intention. As for where I come from, that's not important. What matters is what I can bring to Town Chief Murong. Murong Chui's expression slightly darkened, nodding for him to continue. Town Chief Murong, the current Mayan town has been thoroughly infiltrated by spies from the 3 towns, with its lord ignorant and foolish, using the influence of Jinshin's father-in-law to compete with you for power, bringing wolves into his home unwittingly. The town city people are panicking, scattered like sand, everyone plotting their future paths. Forgive me for speaking bluntly, Mayan is now a ship riddled with leaks, on the verge of capsizing. Bold words. Who do you think you are, meddling in Mayan town's affairs? Ignorant brat, cease your nonsense. Before Murong Chui could speak, a dozen people, including Murong Ping and Murong Yan, couldn't help but angrily retort, and several hot-tempered ones even stood up, poised to act, evidently infuriated by Yuan Dao's words. It seems none want the town destroyed. There is still spirit to fight, which makes it easier to explain. Seeing their reaction, Yuan Dao's eyes flashed with a hint of delight, but he coldly chuckled and continued. If I am correct, the town's situation is still within Town Chief Murong's controllable range. You dare not move because you await the outcome of the bashing battle, hoping it will hold the Daju Temple, allowing the 4 towns to aid Mayan, preventing absorption by the northern 3 towns. Isn't that right? Upon hearing this, Murong Chui's pupils condensed. Even those recently furious fell silent, looking at Yuan Dao with suspicion and surprise. The opponent clearly knows far more than they imagined. Wishful thinking. After uttering these 4 words, Yuan Dao paused briefly, then continued in a deep voice. I dare assert this moment, the day bashing erupts will be the day Wuchuan and Jinshin attack Mayan. By then, the only path for you is allegiance to Beishuo. Yet upon taking this road, Mayan town will cease to exist, the Murong family and everyone will from then on be reliant upon others. Chapter 1061. Chapter 373. Mayan's desperate situation, only we can help you, King Wang Elixir Pills bashing battle /4. Boy, what exactly are you trying to say? Murong Chui's expression grew uglier as he listened. Before Yuan Dao could finish saying, living under another's roof, he coldly interrupted him. Yuan Dao looked up at Murong Chui, then glanced around at everyone in the hall, noticing their faces were even more unsightly than Murong Chui's. A glint appeared in his eyes as he lowered his voice and spoke slowly. Town Chief Murong, if you want Mayan town to continue surviving on the south slope of Mo Mountain, Jinshin town can't help you, nor can Beishuo town or the central south 4 towns. The only one who can help you. At this point he paused, took out a palm-sized silver token from his bosom, tossed it towards Murong Chui at the head of the table, and then looked up at him, continuing resolutely. Is us. Murong Chui caught the silver token, his pupils suddenly narrowing. A token made from 10,000 forging-level silver was astonishing and showcased financial power, but it wasn't enough to make Murong Chui react like this. The key was the Xia character on the token's front. He could tell at a glance that it wasn't stamped with a tool but pressed directly with someone's finger. From the continuity of the script, it was clear it was done in one fluid motion. The weapons used at the Xianyang level are generally made from 100,000 forging-level silver. Yet 10,000 forging-level silver is already as hard as a Xianyang-level body. Murong Chui admitted he couldn't accomplish such a feat. So behind this Yuan Dao. Murong Chui took a deep breath, looked up at Yuan Dao, his eyes filled with caution, and asked in a low voice, May I know how my young friend and those behind you plan to help Mayan town continue on the southern slope of Mo Mountain, and what do you want from Mayan town in return? Once the heart is moved, everything becomes negotiable. Yuan Dao's face broke into a slight smile. He cupped his hands and said, Rest assured, Town Chief Murong, our great Xia only wishes to befriend the 9 towns and seeks nothing from Mayan town. Murong Chui and those in the hall wouldn't take his words seriously, but as Yuan Dao continued, their expressions became increasingly strange, and gradually they grew excited. Could such a good thing really exist under the heavens? The thought emerged in the minds of Murong Chui and the others. The 8th year of Great Xia, April 26th, daytime. In the inner city of Great Xia, at the star-picking platform. Sitting cross-legged on a 12-petal silver enlightenment lotus platform, Xia Hong had his eyes closed in concentration. His entire body emitted a fiery glow, and behind him floated a bone appearance figure. Unlike its previous 1,000 zhang form in battle, it was now only 3 zhang tall. Being a bone appearance, naturally there was no flesh or skin membrane. However, unlike the normal white skeleton, the bone appearance behind Xia Hong was a dark red, and its surface was inscribed with golden patterns resembling molten lava, giving it an enigmatic look. The medicinal power of a green bone-gathering pill continuously flowed around the skeleton, absorbed by the lava-like patterns on the bones. As the medicinal power was absorbed, those patterns became more distinct, and the color and texture of the bones constantly improved. Of course, this process was extremely slow and indistinguishable to the naked eye. Who? After a long time, Xia Hong slowly opened his eyes, gently exhaled a breath of green medicinal vapor, and the molten bone appearance behind him gradually dispersed. The power increase has basically stopped. It's as I initially guessed. Only by completing the stage of tempering and surpassing the critical point will the bones be strengthened and power increased, but this tempering process is excessively lengthy. After contemplating, Xia Hong quickly shook his head and chuckled lightly. I shouldn't be too greedy. After all, I only broke through last September. If I could complete a stage of tempering in just 7 months, then my Xianyang level cultivation would seem too worthless. He had reached the cold resistance level in March of the first year, and broke through to the Xianyang level early last September, taking a total of 6.5 years in the cold resistance level. Based on his current understanding of the Xianyang level ages in the 9 towns, this cultivation speed was indeed extraordinary. Cultivation in the Xianyang level couldn't possibly take less time than in the cold resistance level. Among the Xianyang levels in the 9 towns, those with mid or late-stage cultivation are likely only Yang Zhun, Shangyuan Yang, and Qin Feng. Based on Zaihu Zhang's reaction when he last saw me in action, I can deduce that my strength isn't too different from these 3. Therefore, competing with the 9 towns shouldn't be lacking confidence. Xia Hong's eyes focused slightly as he suddenly raised his head to look towards the entrance of the star-picking platform. The Xuanling, donned in a white palace robe, hurriedly ascended the platform. Seeing Xia Hong had completed his practice, she spoke directly. There's news from Huayuan. The Daju Temple has already mobilized the earth-digging realm from over 50 village-level camps across the region to Bashing. The total troops are now 16,000, with the last 300 official bhikkhus also dispatched. Last night, the Daju Temple army tent moved 5 kilometers closer to Bashing City. Now, the 2 sides are less than 2 kilometers apart, and it's expected a battle will commence within days at the latest. After hearing this, Xia Hong furrowed his brows and asked, and the situation in Qinghe Village? Qinghe Village is extremely empty now, with only 1,000 Zen temple bhikkhus watching over it. If Su Ning's initial intel is correct and they have only 800 official bhikkhus, then the Daju Temple is at its most vulnerable now. According to scouts, reports from Qinghe Village, the vigilance at the village's eastern Zen temple and the Great Awakening Hall at Chilong Lake remains tight, and unauthorized persons are not allowed near. No scouts from the 9 towns dare venture there anymore. During these months of conflict between Daju Temple and the towns of Bashing and Jiangxia, if nothing else, the area around Qinghepu has been extremely empty. Especially as the warfare escalates, fewer and fewer cold resistance level and earth-digging realm individuals from the 3 villages and 18 families remain. Great Xia has already taken the opportunity to insert numerous scouts in that area.